All right, so welcome, Shaping CT's Future, Entrepreneurship and Leadership. We're kind of kicking things off here with our pre-game shows, so to speak, podcast. With me, we have Jeff Hoffman, Chairman of Global Entrepreneurship and World Youth Horizons. Beth LaChance
Yes.
from Global Medical Virtual Assistants. Cheryl Heller, founder of CommonWise, and Chris Allen, CEO of iCleanse. I'm BJ Keto, president of Rebellion Group, and really excited about the 8th installment of Shaping CT's Future. This kind of kickoff, we're talking about the story of the startup, right? And part of what we want to get through and really talk about today is kind of that entrepreneur's journey. I'll kind of kick it off, Chris, when you got this topic and you started to think through what you may want to kind of talk about your journey, what's the first thing that came to mind?
I mean, for me, it's always been about creating a great team, right? I was a young entrepreneur when I started iDevices, my first company, and I was really a one-man show. It was me, myself, and I, and as we morphed into a larger organization, I asked a lot of advice from other CEOs, and the common advice that I got from some of the top guys out there and the ladies out there was, if you surround yourself with great people, everything falls into place. And I just add the caveat of, if you surround yourself with great people, give them the liberty to do what you hired them to do, unencumbered. Don't be a micromanager, and that's when my business has really flourished. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And then lean on your mentors, right? There is a network out there. It can be very lonely at the top. A lot of people will tell you that. Chet Pepkin, the former CEO of Belkin, told me from the get-go, he said, listen, here's my number, call me anytime. He says, it's super lonely. You're not going to be able to talk about all the crap you're going through and all the hardships with everybody in the company. So reach out to other CEOs and talk with them.
Beth, what about you?
Yeah, well, so many things come to mind because I was part of corporate America for the longest time. I didn't actually consider myself an entrepreneur until I launched my company. And I launched my company really, just not by mistake, but just by opportunity. And it's what I anticipated, but at the same time, I didn't realize I thought, okay, the first couple years are going to be hard, right? The first couple years, you're going to dig in deep. It's going to be a lot of hours. That hasn't ended quite yet, especially if you have expansive growth that continues to go, which we've been incredibly lucky with that. But absolutely, I'm going to lean on what you just said. Finding the right team. The right team has been absolutely critical. And sometimes that right team isn't necessarily the team you start with, and that has to evolve. And with that evolution comes making really tough decisions, because sometimes you maybe have hired a family member, or you may have hired a close friend. And so sometimes that needs to evolve and change with you. And so sometimes that can be really difficult. But also, I didn't anticipate the burden and the amount of pressure it would put on the rest of my family. Because you're not in it alone. Whoever,
a 9 to 5?
It's not. It is not a 9 to 5. Most definitely not. It's through the weekend. It's through the night. It's through dinner. One of the things that my kids had said to me about is that, gosh, for years, Mom, all you did was talk about work at dinner. If I was home at dinner. So, there's one of the things you've got to be able to grit it out, get through it, but make sure that you're fully supported by the people that are with you.
And Cheryl, a little bit about your journey as founding partner. What was the spark, and what carried that idea to business? And how did you decide to take that leap?
Well, I feel like my work is starting and restarting things, so it's been a series. I started out as an artist and a designer, and I fell into business and didn't know there were rules I was supposed to follow. And so I just made shit up. And I continued to make stuff up, and it worked. I've worked with Fortune 50 companies, helping them launch new divisions and products. I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs. It's really heartening to hear the stories here today already, and I'm looking forward to hearing everybody else. But it is, for me, it continues to be the creative process, right? How you design is creating preferred conditions from current ones. And so that process is something I use again and again and again. And I used it to, I stumbled into education as well. And somebody asked me to start a graduate program, so I made that up. What should this be? And then I did it again at Arizona State University. So, that understanding that most of the time, nobody's ever done what you're trying to do successfully. And so it's okay not to have the answer all the time. It's okay to be in the messy middle or the fuzzy front end, because you do figure it out when you pay attention to what you really want to do.
Jeff, we were talking earlier, and you corrected me on your updated stats on the site.
That's my bad.
But as someone who's actively, engaged with 440 startups, what is the story that persists across, many that really is the incubus for their passion? And, is there a thread that?
Well, there are a few. The one I like most is that the person actually was experiencing that problem themselves, right? So when people grew up in that problem and are living it and are actually originally fixing it for themselves, they're more passionately dedicated to a problem they know. So that's a common one. Mm-hmm. I had a guy come in one time and here's what he said. He said, "My sister died of a cancer that should have been easily detected and cured." He said, "I have a way to make sure no one ever dies of that again." It's a pretty good start,
Yeah.
right? But he's like committed.
Yeah.
And so he created this detection technology to solve that problem. In fact, my own, what my first startup was? I missed a flight in an airport back when you had to wait in a long line to check in with a human being. And I went home and said, I'm never going to miss a flight again, and created the kiosks that are in all the airports now, was my first product. But I did that because I didn't want to stand in line. So I think one of the common threads is people are solving a problem they know, and there's a reason they want to fix it. Mm-hmm. And I like that thread because, again, they're familiar with the problem and it matters to them. So that's probably a common one. The other one, you guys already touched on team. How do I get people to help me? But there is one other one, which is the question I hear every day in my life is, I have a great idea, I just don't know where to start. How do I start? Yep. Every day, that's a common thread. The idea they have, they just don't know what to do next, which is why we're all here sharing stories.
Yeah.
Yep.
Chris, does that track? With iDevices, what was the need? What was?
I mean, mine was pretty basic. I mean, I started out with a grilling thermometer that I bought from Brookstone, and it was kludgy, and you had to carry a second device around, and I had this new iPhone, and it had cool apps, and I was like, wow, this thing should just connect to the iPhone, get rid of this kludgy thing I'm carrying around with me. And that's when I came about with the invention. That was kind of the start of IoT. We were the first IoT product launched in Apple retail. I think the other common thing that you see across, even probably all the folks here, nobody mentioned out of the gate, and I think this is the society we're living in today, unfortunately. A lot of people are chasing the dollars. Mm-hmm. And when you chase the dollars, you don't find success. You find temporary happiness or different things like this. And I'll just use a personal experience. I lost my father-in-law actually today. He passed away. And I'll just use this for all the entrepreneurs out there, all the potential entrepreneurs. At no point in time when he's laying on his deathbed did he say he worked more, wanted to work more, or wish he made more money. The biggest thing that you have is time, right? And as you build your business, your time becomes more and more precious. So recognizing when you're looking at team and augmenting a team, you have to look at your fallacies. You have to look at the things where you fall down and you don't do well in. And you have to augment a team around you that fills those voids, because that creates the perfect team. And I'll use the example of my best friend since 5, which I'm blessed to have a very good relationship with. He's my COO. He's the yin to my yang. He's an engineering mind, kind of process-oriented, runs through the brick wall, gets stuff done. I'm the idea guy. Like Free Willy, squirrel, where is it? I'm chasing it, like stuff. And he's the guy who brings me back to reality. Like we have this relation. And he's very conservative, so I push him to go faster, go harder, go quicker, and not do every single checkbox, right? So I think you need to find those things, and when you're building your company and you're looking at your teams, those are the key things that I look for.
Kind of for everyone, but is that something that came easily, or was
No, it's
innate, or
hard.
is that something that someone had to hit you with a brick to say, hey, you need
Well,
a
you have to
yang
look
to your yang?
introspectively, right? You have to look at yourself and be honest with yourself of what do I do well and where do I really not do well. And also, to my point about the money, what do I enjoy doing?
Yes.
Because at iDevices and even at iCleanse and my other companies, I enjoy showing up every day because I schedule my job or I create my job around what I enjoy doing, which is the creative side, the idea side, the pushing the culture side. So if that's not your thing, don't make that part of If you're the CEO and you make that part of your job, then you're stupid. Because do things you enjoy. Life is too short. At the end of the day, you're at work more than you are at home. So make work fun. And that's really what we tried to do at all my companies is make it enjoyable. I used to say it all the time. If you're not happy here, we'll help you transition out. But don't come to work and be miserable every day because it's not worth it for us or for you.
Yeah, that resonates with me.
Does
for
it?
sure.
Yeah, you were shaking your
100%.
head, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Only because, especially when you launch and you start, like similar to a few people at the table, when it's just you and you're doing everything, you actually have to get to a point where you give yourself permission to invest in hiring more people and invest in hiring the right people, because that dollar amount may not be what you want to spend on someone, but you have to know that that's an investment into the company, not an investment necessarily just into the person. And so that is a mind shift that has to take place at some point, that it's like, oh yeah, I want to hire someone, and I only have so much amount of money that I want to invest in that person, and then you have to really make a shift in your mindset about, okay, I'm investing in the business, and this is the investment, and I need to do it with a person that knows more than me and is better than me at that. And so that has been one of the things that I have really focused in on the last year and a half to ensure that those are the people that I'm bringing in and seeking out, because they're the ones that are going to catapult the business much further and get me out of the weeds of some of the things that I'm not good at, nor do I want to be good at. It's not really what I'm passionate about, and be focused on the things that I'm passionate about.
Chris and Beth both pointed out a problem that we see all the time, which is in the early days, if you're a solopreneur or a small company and it's going well, that's actually the worst thing that could happen to you. Because you start to think, I actually am good at 7 things. But the truth is, no, you're not. You're good at one thing, you're just getting by with the other ones. And to your point, the sooner you can hand those to someone else and focus on the one thing. I have never hired an engineer who did engineering and said, I finished writing code, you want me to do our taxes? Right? It doesn't happen. And then I'll write some marketing copy. But you think, because you're the CEO and it's going pretty well, I must be good at all those things.
Right.
So that's dangerous thinking when it's going well.
Yes.
Because each of us needs to find, as you guys said, the one thing we're good at and get smarter people to take everything else as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Cheryl, have you found a similar yin and yang to your...
Yeah, but what I'm hearing is really interesting to me, because I always say, you have to care deeply about what you're doing in order to get through all of the twists and turns and curves. That has to be your North Star. But part of what I hear that's essential to what everybody's saying is that I always say communication is every bit as important as your idea. And whether that's having honest communications with your team or being able to create communications that represent your business in a room where you can't be and it's no longer your brother and your mother who already love you, but the communication plays such a vital role, and I think it's underestimated in the search for money and in the falling in love with ideas. People can often think that's enough, and especially when there's social benefit involved, they think, I'm doing good, and so of course everybody will come and support that. But it's always more dependent, because no business is anything more than a series of relationships, and relationships are built on communication.
100%.
Something you had, kind of referenced, whether it's in your kitchen, your garage, the back shed, right? That the need or the plan to sort of take the next step, is that something, Jeff, that is a point of focus when you're talking to entrepreneurs, when they can trust that they're ready to scale and kind of move beyond their kitchen and take on a team and take on a space? Or is it something that happens to them and there's success that then necessitates the move rather than planning for the success?
The problem is it's all of the above.
Yeah.
There are people that are absolutely ready to scale, but scared to death, so they don't scale. They're afraid to. There's people that think they're ready to scale and have no idea what it entails. So there are a series of things you have to do and know and prepare before you can scale. And so I would say the most common case is people are trying to scale and suddenly things are out of control because they in fact did not know what it took to scale. They were not prepared for all those things. I'd love to hear your guys' stories of scaling your businesses, but yeah, I think we see some of all of that. The market, right? Markets make themselves. The market will tell you if you're ready to scale.
Yeah.
But that means there's market out there for you. It doesn't mean your company's ready at all. What did you guys go through when you just down the line when you started scaling?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was, 3 people that grew to 75 when we sold, and the reality, I'm going to go against what I just said, but it wasn't always about throwing more people at a problem, because you added just more layers of complexity as we got bigger and bigger and bigger, and we got less done because there was lack of cohesive communication. So as you're scaling, it's very important to put in those SOPs, put in those various, and truthfully, I think that one of the best things that I'm good at personally is culture. Creating the environment where people can talk freely, have open communication, feel valued. I think that's really your most important job as a CEO, whether you do a town hall once a month, which is what I used to do, or you do intercompany communications where you send out notices, but making sure that everybody feels valued and feels that it's okay to make a mistake, because it's those mistakes that you learn from that allow you to propel yourself to the next level. When you work in an environment where there's like a very strict cane that comes down on your hand when you do something wrong, it really stifles innovation, and it stifles the ability for people to feel that they're valued and that they bring something to the table that the company needs. I'll just give one quick example. I did a town hall. I gave out little sheets of paper to everybody. Nobody knew what the hell I was doing. I said, write down your 2 best things about iDevices. And they all wrote down. There's 2 things that they wrote down. One of them, I work with some of the smartest people in the world, and I love learning new things from them every day. And that was part of that communication. And the second one was our food, because we had an early chef. But it was a great benefit that they loved and they appreciated. They felt valued for.
I kind of want to work there now.
I know, right?
We had a masseuse, we had a barber shop, we had a bar,
Well,
all
that
sorts
plays
of fun
into the
stuff.
culture.
Yeah.
That was when all the
culture.
perks were,
Yeah.
driving.
I learned from Silicon Valley, so it was very abstract learning.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, for me, the growth has been, for us, I consistently just kept thinking, okay, I have a little bit of imposter syndrome, so I would say to myself, okay, this is where we are today, but we're growing, and I can't stop the growth, so what we're doing now, will it work when we double in size? Will it work when we triple in size? And so, for me, that's been clear communication with my team about a lot of people don't like change, and so they have to, especially in a company that wants to continue to scale, you've got to have the right team that's open to that, and also clear communication on, okay, this software tool we're using now is great for what is happening today, but we need to scale to this number, and the only way the way we need to get there is we're going to need to move away from this software and move to a new one. And so those are some of the growing pains that are inevitable once you make the choice to scale, but above and beyond that, you need to be ahead of the curve. And like to your point, if you're not ahead of the curve and you get to the point where you're scaling, you're not prepared, your team isn't prepared, you can very, very quickly see a decline with mass exodus of staff.
Do you think culturally that comfort level with change has shifted a bit, whether in either direction? My mind went, as I was saying it, I might retract my statement, but my mind went toward the prevalence and the prominence of startups and the press around the unicorns that at all-time highs, and those folks seeking out young companies to be a part of because of upside, in my mind maybe made them more okay with change and that flexibility. And then my mind went to our current team and knowing the yearn for stability and understanding of the future and the vision. So how do you weigh that, or does it shift, or when does it shift?
Well, I was struck by people were talking about scale, right? I've been in situations where my organization tripled in size in a year, and I didn't feel like it was anything I did. we just had to go with it. And what you come to realize is that scale is not an event, it's a continuum. And building an organization that has the capacity to navigate change is key to all of it. And I think given the current state of the world with climate and geopolitics and economic unknowns, the big thing for every company is going to be to build that capacity into their organization to navigate change and to be agile and flexible enough to pivot as needed.
Absolutely.
Something, I mean, we were kind of talking about it earlier, but just even adoption of AI and technology has rapidly accelerated, the change curve, so to speak, and there's a ton of opportunity that's presented, and also a ton of potentially misdirected ideas that that will fizzle. The idea of the story of the startup, right? Kind of thinking about the title here. If you had to sort of categorize, or title your story, the journey that you each went through, what would the title be?
Let's look at Chris.
Put
and
you
make
on the
him go
spot.
first.
No, I
Do
mean,
that so he has
Yeah,
to
let's
go.
Chris go first. Yeah.
I would just say it's very much like hiking a number of different mountains across the country, right? Like, you're going to have peaks and you're going to have valleys, and you have to be willing to. I used to say to my team all the time, there's an obstacle in front of us. You've conquered Mount Everest, right, in terms of hiking or mountain climbing. There's a path. You just have to understand it and figure it out and traverse it and get there. But it isn't all up and away and happy times. There's plenty of lows, and you need to be a leader that can see the light on the other side of the tunnel and lead your team to it, because there's a lot of people that will become downtrodden. Again, going to team that you're the guiding light that's pushing them in the right direction, telling them it's going to be okay, telling them we're doing the right thing, or expect change, because change is an inevitability in a startup, right? You're never going in a straight line. You're zigzagging in a million directions like a kid with a crayon. So I would just say that as an entrepreneur coming in, if you're coming in with the delusion that it's just going to be to the moon and it's going to be great, get yourself prepared for the deep, deep valleys that come in between.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, somebody told me once that my motto in life is there must be a harder way to do this. Because I feel like I'm always ambitious. I always aim very high, and I never mind messy problems. And it's part of the reason that I say I make stuff up, right? Because I love figuring things out that haven't been done before. And so I think there must be a harder way to do this is my story.
I think my story started with me feeling as though I was at the midpoint of a mountain on my own, pushing up a massive boulder, while chihuahuas were pecking at my heels. That's how it consistently felt.
They got sharp little teeth.
Yeah. They do. And so, but on the other side of that, once your business hits a certain point, then it's more, for me, I kind of feel like I am now riding this massive wave that I have to navigate. And I need to make sure that I am balanced and that I am following the curve of the direction that I need to head to ensure that I'm making it to the very end without falling off that surfboard.
So if we had a title for this story, I think mine would have been, I promise you this will work. Because forever we were a little startup and going after big customers. My customers were airlines, airports, hotel chains, and I would go in, and I remember a CEO saying something to the effect of, he said, I think I have more executive assistants than you have employees. And he's like, you think I'm going to trust the brand of this airline to you and your little friends? And I said, yes, sir. And he's like, well, you got guts. And I said, I also have this product that I want you to look at. And I'm in there. So for us, our story was always credibility. I promise it'll work, just give us a chance. That's what every one of ours started with, was people were like, we don't even want to see it because you're a little startup. And that first company I did, I was 20-something years old. And they would say, how many jobs have you even had? I said one, and I sucked at it. But even so, I'm in your office now. Every time our story was promise you this will work, can you just give us a chance? And I had to say that so many times. Ultimately, we'd get a little bit of a chance, and they would say, it did work. And then you're one step, at least you're in the door.
Right. Yeah.
The idea of, you had mentioned, Beth, the imposter syndrome, and all of us feel it maybe still at some point or in certain things.
Yep.
Kind of bringing it back to today's event, as successful entrepreneurs, and is there other things that you were looking forward to hearing others' opinions about, or specific topics, or what do you hope to kind of learn or get insights in that may alleviate some of that imposter syndrome?
I think for me it would be, how are people navigating uncertain, we're really in an uncertain time right now in terms of, like you just discussed.
Yeah, the uncertain is the new normal.
And so, right, exactly. And so, as the leader, we're consistently having to really qualm our team to just know that, okay, we're moving in the right direction. And so I guess I would want to hear from other people today, like, how are they leading in this time? What is the consistent message that they're giving to their team to make sure that people aren't jumping ship when they're like, okay, if you're in, for example, human capital, which is the industry I'm in, and AI is starting to peck at our heels a little bit, we don't want people to immediately jump ship. No, we're working on a solution. So what is the messaging? How are leaders really leading in these moments to make sure that people feel that they're in a stable environment, there's a path to success regardless of where we're headed?
Mm-hmm. Good.
Good.
Sure. Yeah.
I am really, first of all, I fully appreciate the work it takes to put on an event like this, so thank you. And I'm really thrilled
My
that...
team. I'm just.
Well,
It's
you're
all the team.
you're representing your team. I'm really excited to be among entrepreneurs and leaders from Connecticut, because I've worked many countries of the world and all over the country, and I feel like this is home now, and that one of the most important places and one of the most important, one of the most impactful things we can do is focus locally, because it will be more important for navigating whatever is coming. And so I'm just thrilled to see who's here, and I'm curious about what people are thinking and feeling, and I'm grateful to you all for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I'm a college dropout, so I've lasted a whopping 3 months in college, so I use these opportunities to network, and my biggest thing is an active listening. I practice active listening, take every little tidbit from jobs and positions and people's experiences that may not be directly applicable, but I can morph into what I can use within my companies today. It's been my mantra since the get-go, so that's really what I look forward to.
I appreciate the kind words, and for us, it's really about creating that environment, right? So we talk about trying to grow Connecticut and as a primary, with shaping Connecticut's future, but the idea is that business is global, and there's very talented folks here, and there's amazing initiatives and conversations that are pushing that forward, but if we can create those collisions of those minds, hopefully we can, grow that impact, and ultimately if we can bring in folks that have had success and are in around the world, or across those state lines, we can build a Connecticut that isn't between New York and Boston, but a Connecticut that has its own identity as a incubator and innovation hub and real enterprise. So that was our hope starting the event, and what I hope to always see coming out of this, right, is some impact.
Yep.
Great.
All right.
I don't know how we're doing on time. Should I just keep going? You said we have an hour?
I don't know. That's what you said.
No, we
They
have
said
half
when
an
I was like,
I thought so too.
We have half
We
an
could
hour.
talk all day with you.
Are we still live?
You have other stuff.
go live.
Yeah. Well, we're broadcasting though. Hi everyone at home.
Hi, everyone. I think we have a stop at 2, because that's when everything
yeah,
else is
right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
everything else starts. Yeah, we've got to
Okay.
kick it off.
All right. Well, we'll be back. We're kicking, we're
All right,
kicking off the
awesome.
live show, podcast to follow, watch the stream, some good panels coming up, and hopefully a ton of really great insights for everyone to kind of take away and build their businesses upon.
Right.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're live. Go.
Now you can't
We're-
shut us up.
Yeah,
right?
no.
We're live. That's
We're live.
So so I launched Global Medical Virtual Assistants, CEO and founder, back in 2019, and I came from the medical space where I paid heavy attention to what was happening in medical practices, and having launched into the medical virtual assistant space, I knew exactly where we would make an immediate impact, and the landscape of the medical space specifically is there is a mass exodus out of medicine. Not just at the provider level, but at the administrative care level, so everyone that works within the back office of the medical practices. And it's consistently dropping off. So there's a need, there's a heavy need, and luckily we found the right, the right business model to be able to really facilitate helping on the back end of medical practices. So we launched one small pilot practice here in the state of Connecticut. So launched with one, tried it out. It was a true pilot. It went so extraordinarily well that the PE firm that owned a bunch of other medical practices immediately wanted to put it in all their other practices. So that was like just launch, right? But then COVID hit, and COVID was really a gift to me and my business, very different than other people's experiences, because it pushed
Everything online.
Everyone online.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly. And virtual assistants have been widely utilized in all different industries except for in the medical space. And so conversations I was having with medical practices and facilities previous to COVID was there were a lot of hurdles to get over to them to even consider the possibility of utilizing medical virtual assistants. COVID happens and it was, okay, how can we do this and how quickly can we get it going? So it really catapulted us into a whole nother level, and it hasn't stopped. It has really continued to go on. So that it's been a wild and interesting ride, and I know that other people during COVID, it wasn't necessarily the best thing that happened to their businesses, but we were able to really find the sweet spot and find the growth. And exciting for us, and the Inc. 5000 was released, we're #1 in the state of Connecticut for growth.
Congrats.
So that was
Congrats.
a really exciting thing
Yeah.
for us, just because we've seen we're fitting a need, and we're within a niche that really needs to be with the right company, and I think that we've found that.
Yeah, and have you seen sort of the ask expand now that
Yes.
the comfort level has increased with the concept?
Without question, 60% of our overall growth in our organization has come from additional add-ons and additional departments that our existing clients have added into. So they've started in maybe one department with maybe 5 or 10 virtual assistants, and then they really quickly realize, wow, this works. Not only does it work, this is incredibly efficient, it also is really budget friendly, so this is definitely a direction that they can head in. So before you know it, they're adding on additional virtual assistants into different pieces of their overall medical practice
Nice.
or
Yeah.
hospital system.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cheryl, what about Common-wise?
We basically advise organizations at transition points to redefine and design a path to the future. And it's been interesting because I said I've worked with a lot of very large global companies like American Express and Bayer Corporation and Medtronic. And there were years where it was all focused on external expansion. So it was launching a whole new brand of hotels around the world or launching a new TV channel. And it was very externally focused on growth. And what we're seeing now is that there's a focus on building internal capacity and building resilience among teams, because everybody's nervous, right? Everybody's nervous, is my job gonna be safe? I'm having problems affording things that I didn't think I would. And so there's more of, and it's what I was talking about before, right? There's more of a focus on people's capacity for invention, people's capacity for collaboration, for creating new things and innovation. So for example, there's a Fortune 50 company now that we're working with a cohort of new product and service developers, and we're basically guiding and advising all the entrepreneurs inside. And the issues are still the same, right? It just isn't a time anymore when there's a lot of bravery of, oh, let's open a new country, or, let's come up with a whole new device. People are much more cautious about that, but it is, how do I navigate the internal culture? How do I learn what I need to learn to build the relationships? How do I find the support I need within the company? So it's been interesting, but essentially, at every stage of a company's growth, there are times when there needs to be an evaluation or a reevaluation of what the North Star is, what the company's trying to do, and how to build capacity to get there. And because I've spent a lot of time also in the past years teaching, it really helps in working with companies, because I think, McKinsey notwithstanding, the days of consultants having a black box and not telling anybody how it works, when essentially the process is the process. That we look to build capacity within companies to own these processes and these skills and ways of thinking so that they can continue on their own. And I bet that sounds familiar.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I think part of that black box, or breaking apart the black box, is where we play for sure.
Yeah.
So Chris having exited and then not repeated in the space, but going back, what's...
No, yeah, I exited in 2017, so it's hard to believe we're coming up on 10 years now. But having exited a business was really interesting. We exited twice, once to Byron Trott, and then we sold the rest of the company to Hubble down Shelton. But I stayed on for 3 years, and just corporate America just wasn't for me. Like, as you might imagine, I don't fit that. I'm the round peg in the square hole, or a square peg in the round hole. But in 2020, I had the opportunity to acquire a company that I invested in as a venture capitalist. And It was formerly called ReadyDoc. And they disinfected phones and tablets for hospitals. And so as we went in and we looked at it and we took the business primarily for the patents and what they had in that back end, we wanted to redesign it, reinvigorate the brand. And so that was the exciting part for me. That was my creative juices going, the innovation, and then I brought some folks in from iDevices to help us really navigate, actually building it and making it a reality. As we were going through that, though, to the point of nothing is a straight line in terms of building a company, we zigged and zagged, and one of the zigs was we developed a device where you put your phone in and it disinfects in 15 seconds. And while I'm standing there, I'm like, this is my best friend, again, my COO standing next to me. I'm like, damn, this is a long time. He's like, it's only 15 seconds. I was like, yeah, but people are going to be bored. We should give them a screen. So he was like, okay, we'll put a screen on it. So we started with a little screen like this big, and then it blew up to an 18-inch screen now. But what we ended up creating was the world's only fully captive audience, where we've taken away this very large distraction for advertisers. So advertisers' biggest competition today is the people looking at the screen. I always use the example of Times Square. If you watch from like the W's hotel room, and you look at all those people walking around and tens of millions of screens around them, they're not looking at them, they're usually doing this, like, where am I going, what am I doing, where am I going to eat? And so we take that phone away from them for 15 seconds, give them a free service, and then we pay for that service through the advertising that we generate for the location. So very much like it was Josh, who was just here.
Jeff.
Jeff. We're in airports, we're in hospitals, hotels, things along those lines. And it's been a wild ride because the company was born in hospital NICUs, and we're still in hospitals, but we've morphed into Chuck E. Cheese and W.H. Smiths of the world and EWRs of the world and Bradley, and we're here in the convention center too. So it's been a wild ride, and it's just proof positive that a lot of the stuff I said it's really true. It's not, we're not making it up, any of us. It's like, if you plan one way, you can assure, I used to tell my people in all my stand-ups, we may be planning in this direction, but the only thing I can guarantee you is that we're going to probably end up in this direction, and then back in this direction, and then back in this direction. So we'll eventually get to the end game, but it's been a really interesting ride because I learned something new, right? I was not in the marketing media space, had no clue what you guys do in Rebellion in terms of buying advertising and placing ads and designing ads. And so I've had to drink from the fire hose for the last few years of learning something entirely new of what I was doing before.
Sometimes that's the best way to learn, though, right?
Well, it makes it fun.
To get overwhelmed with information, and then you have to figure it out yourself. You actually have to interpret it then.
Yeah, I mean, I got a great board of advisors. I brought in some really smart folks, again, and drinking from the fire hose of whatever they can feed me for what they think the best practice would be. And it's been really interesting. I've met a lot of cool people, and I wouldn't change anything. It's just, it's an interesting time in the space. Because I think the digital marketplace is changing for advertisers. They want more and more sniper-like ads versus let's do the shotgun and blow it everywhere and just spend $500 million. They're becoming more focused of like, let's do right place, right time, right
efficiency, personalization,
exactly.
And
we just embedded
ideally that. AI can get you there,
exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I would love to hear from you as well, how you all think AI is going to affect your business.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we just implemented it in our device. So we have a pretty decent processing power on our screen, and we have a camera. So we do on-premise, so nothing to the cloud, but on-premise facial detection of male, female, ethnicity, and approximate age range. And based on that, we cache ads in the background that are applicable to those demographics. So a woman doesn't see a men's Gillette razor, and a guy doesn't see a woman's Gillette razor when they walk up to the unit and use our device. We also track retinal, so we'll be able to tell actually how many views, which anybody who's in the advertising business knows it's kind of like this magic black box theory of like, oh, so many people walked by and they looked at the screen and they kind of sort of saw your ad. We're actually giving real demographics.
Not all ad served equals ad seen,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And are you collecting data from that?
No, we harvest it only for the purpose of serving the correct ad. We do have the data there, but we don't keep the face or any of the privacy stuff. So it's just data analytics of male, female, and approximate age.
And this woman bought a razor. Yeah.
There you go, exactly. Yeah, that's the key thing.
Yeah.
Because when we sit in stores like CVS or Chuck E. Cheese or W.H. Smith, we can actually see the lift that we drive by Mars saying, hey, you can buy 2 Snickers for $5,
Yeah.
right? And they sell more Snickers, whatever it might be.
Yeah, for me, being in, we're all, our entire business is humans and placing humans with hospital systems and or medical practices. I'm excited. I'm really excited about what AI is going to do for us because number one, we're already seeing within the business, we're already starting to heavily utilize it just within our business. And we're becoming so much more efficient. The data that we have internally is at our fingertips. We're able to manipulate that data to see what we need to see when we need to see it, literally in a moment's notice. And so that's really exciting, just as a business owner, being able to utilize it in that way, and also make our team that much more efficient. It's absolutely impressive. Then they have time to do deeper dives into issues and trying to find problem solve versus creating reports, right? So all that piece is big for us. The other side is our actual business. Well, will we survive, right? Will we survive the big AI bubble, right? 100% we will absolutely survive and thrive. We are currently creating the use of AI with doing outbound calls for medical practices. And so therefore we'll have one medical virtual assistant that will oversee 18 to 20 AI agents that are doing those outbound calls or inbound calls for patients. So yes, I think that it'll be really, really exciting. And you talked about blind spots earlier in our earlier discussion. Technology is a massive blind spot for me personally. And so making sure that I surround myself with the right and key team members to ensure that we are going to be part of the wave and part of the bubble and not part of the pop. Mm-hmm. So we absolutely want to be part of that. And I think we're going to be, especially in the healthcare industry, people want to talk to humans. Hands down, we still want to talk to humans. But there is going to be a movement to be able to reduce the amount of time we have to talk to humans and some of the simple things that we can do very quickly and simply. Yeah, and so that's the piece that I'm excited about because I think that we can possibly service even more patients and in a much faster way that's been done.
And improve care, I think. I think AI can improve care. My fiance is a nurse, as I mentioned before, and my thing to her, she's like, you're never going to get rid of me. I was like, I'm not trying to get rid of you, but it's like saying one doctor, if you could go to one doctor, if you could get the amalgamation of every doctor in the world's information, are you going to go to the one doctor and think that he's going to know how to fix you? I'd rather have the amalgamation of everybody funneled through that one doctor. So if doctors and nurses aren't using the information at hand, I think it's a disservice to the patient at the end of the day, because there is a lot of information that you just can't ingest it all. There's people investing in reinventing drugs and reinventing procedures. You need to be able to use AI to better the service to the various patients across the country.
Well, ideally in those scenarios, it is accelerating and amplifying the amount of knowledge that you can base decisions off of earlier, right? Like if we've seen iRobot or Minority Report, right? Like the idea of the 3 laws of robotics, or at some point, we can get all of the data and trend analysis and it can make a recommendation, but those, what is it, bowl or, house, right? Like there's that human element of being in the room, seeing, feeling the emotion that, yes, those symptoms may say this, but they may say this. And, you have to read, there's still that place for a human, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it drastically shifts our world for good and for scary. I won't say bad, right? Yeah. The entire model of what clients used to value has flipped, right? So historically, we'd come up with an idea. Usually the agency would overinvest their resources in the idea. Clients would be okay paying for some bigger idea. Clients really understood that execution took all the time. So they put value, right, on all of the execution, the talent, the services, and then results, we're gonna get results, right? But like tracking and attribution wasn't really like the focus. Yeah. Now it's completely flipped, right? Where the expectation is super deep insights, right? That lightning bolt insight. Then the understanding or the thought that AI can do it all, right? And that started even before AI with sort of the commoditization of a lot of the services through overseas and everything else. And then a much, much deeper emphasis on results, ROI, ROAS, efficiency, optimization. So like on the core services piece, it has necessitated that we think differently about where we put emphasis, right? So that's a shift that we kind of planned for and we've talked about internally. Then there's the other side of opportunity, whereas we look at AI and with large language models, we can now process more data firsthand than we could ever before. So it's allowed us to insert psycholinguistics into our persona development, which allows us to understand cognitive biases and a much deeper customer attribution and customer journey, right? And we can create better creative. So, now instead of that 3% engagement, we can increase engagement by 300% because of this deeper level of understanding that's now possible, through AI research, wayfinding, those types of things are accelerated, but it still takes the human to be able to really decipher it.
So one of the things that I think about a lot, part of it is because I teach, but the issue of critical thinking is always the magical thing that you try, and it's the hardest thing to teach. And what I see is everybody fights the period in doing something new where you don't have an answer, right? It's uncomfortable, they fight inevitably. And what AI does is totally remove there's no unknown, right? It is milliseconds and you have an answer. And so how do you preserve that human part of it, and how do you teach critical thinking in this world, because it's already changed academia, and thinking about, your next generation of employees, are they gonna have that human wisdom that you need, and where they're gonna learn it? Because it comes from not knowing the answer.
That's the biggest challenge we see right now in training and upskilling, in hiring. We were joking just this morning, actually, right, that I think there's 3 of us at the company that went through the 48-hour sprints to build a pitch, and we're finishing it in the elevator on the way up to the meeting, right? And something didn't work, or the first data point was wrong, and someone calls us out, and it's this pivot, right? Like that, many haven't gone through it, whether it was for COVID or a million reasons. They haven't gotten, and yes, now AI, right? And the studies saying that AI is making people dumber and soulless. Right, so that is one of the reasons why
and more lonely.
Yes,
More lonely,
and that's one of the reasons why we've prioritized in office, right? That like forcing the collisions, forcing the collaboration, having those conversations around who has experience and who has context that they can bring and give some additional clarity on, because they're missing that, right? We have clients that in their telecom, right, and they're targeting a certain demographic. Well, the folks have never had any experience, right? Like, they went to school virtually, they got their first job, and now, they can't relate, right? And you can't go into AI and tell me how to be culturally aware, right? So.
Well, I think you're bringing up a great point, and like, my belief, and again, I'm not classically trained in any university, but like I've spoken at NYU Stearns and UConn and all these different places, classic education is going to change as well.
Oh, it already has.
Because the idea that you come in as a freshman and you have 4 years to get to the other side of that, everything that you learned your freshman year is obsolete by by the 4th year, and you enter in the workplace. And there's this massive, they used to come to me at iDevices and say, how can I teach my students what's going to be relevant in by the time they graduate and go into the workplace? And at the rate that we're going with AI, where language models are turning 500x at each turn of the new version, you're going to have to really rethink everything. There's going to be a lot of rethinking this too. Recognizing that all these are data points in the world, that they're amalgamizing into either a thought or a statement
Assuming
or a
that
fact.
we get to assuming that they're accurate.
Assuming that,
right?
yeah, the
That's a whole-
accuracy
that's
is
a different
also something that
conversation.
you got to have behind it. But it's a really interesting time because I've heard it from a number of people where you're going to have, I've had experience with my own son, like trying to find jobs for these entry-level positions is very hard because AI is already taking that entry-level position away.
Yeah.
Because if you ask an AI to build out XYZ, I could go build a minuscule website with Manus in probably 15 minutes. And if you become a good prompter, which is where a lot of the kids are going, is like, that's the really big move that they're seeing.
But you just pointed out, right, that the jobs are going away and education is not preparing people with the human skills they need to be, to work in that environment.
That's my biggest
the
thing.
push,
My
right?
son went to Northeastern for that reason, because I wanted him to be able to go work, not
It's a
just
great
learn,
school.
right? Like, and a lot of the professors there, like yourself, are people that have been there, done it. Like a lot of his folks had taken people, the company's public, from zero to billions. And that's what's valued, I think, more by this generation, is that experiential teaching versus I learned from a book and now I'm teaching you from a book. It's very, very laissez-faire. You know, they don't appreciate that really anymore. They want that experience.
It does. It has to. We have to prioritize the critical thinking element of, sort of that Socratic soft skills element of education, because the hard skills are, I don't want to say easy, but they're faster to come by, and they can be quite easy to obtain and with a cert program or with a certain training module. But we have a fair amount of higher ed customers or clients, and one of the things as we started doing research into Gen Z and Gen A, right? And the fact is that millennials had safe space. Like, we were onboarded onto the internet, but nothing I said when I was 13 years old has been recorded for all eternity and used against me.
That topless picture of you?
Well, right. So now there's this fear that anything they do or share, right, or as they try and discover themselves, is going to be held and used against them. So they're seeking communities or institutions that have organizations and have not mental health programs, but enable them to actually find themselves and
purpose.
And
they're looking for purpose. I think is what you're looking for.
And sort of misbehave, right?
Yeah.
And kind of but everything is now cancel or immediate success by creating a TikTok channel, right?
Yeah.
Right.
There's this like hard knocks part of life that needs
Everybody
training.
sees the end result and wants to go from the beginning to that end result. Everything you see on TikTok, Instagram is like, look at me in my fancy car, look at me in my fancy house, look at me on vacation. And they're not seeing the grit and the grind and the sacrifice that went into getting to that point.
Or the joy of that sacrifice and the grit and the grind.
Well, and that's my biggest thing with my children and this generation is the lack of appreciation of what it takes to get that dollar in the bank account, right? And the amount of work, time, and energy that you had to put into it when you go buy that crazy Louis bag or whatever you're buying, and you didn't have to do anything for it, you have zero appreciation for what you just got.
Yep.
And so I'm a big proponent of, and it's a scary time because it's the largest generational wealth transfer in the history of the United States. And I think we have a lot of entitled, part of my language, pricks in this world that think because mom and dad had money and now I got money, I can do whatever I want and I'm a hot shot. And unfortunately, that's the world we're living in today. And it's going to be an interesting time for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
The
You heard
largest
Jerry Seinfeld's famous quote?
No.
His son said to him, "Are you rich, Daddy?" And he said, "No, I'm rich."
Yeah, exactly. I say that to my kids. I'm rich. When I die, my goal is to go with zero into the grave. You got life insurance, I'll take care of the bills, and that's it.
It is a fairly underprepared generation that's going to inherit the most wealth
money
of any, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what startups they invest in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Stay tuned
Yeah.
for Shaping CT's
In the next hour.
yeah,
Yeah.
2045.
The next hour. Right, exactly.
No, thanks for
thank
having
you.
us. It was
Yeah,
appreciated.
thank you.
Thanks for rolling
This
with
is-
it.
this is the real end.
Yeah, I think so. You know,
Yeah.
now we're counting down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
But
no, we
appreciate
appreciate
it.
Rebellion putting this on. This is great, and it's
Yeah,
great to bring everybody together like
It
this.
is.
So
Yes,
looking
so
forward
far,
to
I
a
know-
great event.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't turned around in a while, but
Yeah, we got
got
it so hot
It's
back here.
filling in, which is fantastic.
So if you're waiting to come down, you should come down now because it's
I was
full.
waiting for people. I said, this is like, if it's like college game day,
Yeah, I know,
I
we
want
gotta
to
have
see
the
some
signs
signs
up.
and stuff. Come on.
Signs behind us.
Good deal.
Well,
Thanks again.
stay
Thank you
tuned.
so much.
Kicking off the full program in just a few.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Howdy, folks. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight, or this afternoon, I guess, whoops, for our most recent edition of Shaping CT's Future. My name is Jack. I've been with Rebellion Group and Shaping CT's Future since its inception. To see it grow from the event and gathering it was to the movement it is now is quite the honor to be a part of, and it could not have happened without me and everyone here. We have some great folks in the audience. We have CEOs, CFOs, an aspiring intercontinental wrestling champion named Jim Altman, who I will call up soon. And thank you to our sponsors, Impact, who is here, the Fox 61 Plus folks, who you can watch this happen on their app during or after. Thank you to, Mike at the Convention Center, and yeah. Then I'm just going to give you guys just a little bit of the run of the show, what to expect this afternoon. So we've got a lot of little fun activities coming up here, including our keynote speaker. We're obviously going to have the breakout rooms coming up following the first panel. And then we've also got a couple little things if you stay a little later into the afternoon, such as our little pitch competitions. And then there's also a little podcast going on the other side. But yeah, feel free to mingle, connect, and just everyone, I hope you guys have a great time. Just lastly, I just want to say, we're going to invite Jim Altman up to the stage here. This is our MC, the man, the myth, the legend. He is with Fox 61 and is a 54-time Grammy, or Emmy, excuse me, winner.
Or Remy, yeah.
Or Remy.
I'll take
Yeah,
Remy's
Remy
too.
winner.
Those sounds good. Those sound just as good.
That works.
Time.
Cool. Well, thank you all for coming. We hope you enjoy the show.
Karen, Jack, give it up. Thank you guys. It's so fun to be back, especially to do this in downtown Hartford in the shadow of Fox 61, where our station is. The Schmooze Fest next door is still going on, so people are filing in. But look where we are, Connecticut Convention Center in Hartford. I mean, we've come a long way. How many of you guys have been to this event before? Let's see, a lot, right? Rob's been, and I see a lot of people that I recognize in the audience. We've come a long way, and it's been fun to see the evolution of this event. It's really been fun to be part of this. I've been part of this coming up on about a year now, and when we were doing these in Cheshire, you know, I think the first one I was at, we had 300 people. 1,200 people signed up today for Shaping CT's Future. Connecticut and Hartford have some serious power. Okay, first I want to bring to the stage, and we're going to be together a lot today, but first I want to bring to the stage somebody who knows the territory here really well. David Griggs is the president and CEO of the Metro Hartford Alliance. David, are you here?
I am. How are you? Thank you. So, the Metro Hartford Alliance is many things, including the Hartford Chamber of Commerce. So on behalf of the Hartford Chamber of Commerce, I just want to welcome everybody to downtown Hartford. Enjoy your time here. Get out afterwards, grab yourself some dinner, maybe grab a drink, stay over, and have fun. As it relates to economic development, first off, thank all of you for coming here. It means something to you. The future of Connecticut means something to you. And economic development is absolutely a sport that everybody can play in, especially today. And I want to bring up an opportunity that you all have in your hometowns, wherever you come from. And that's, we are at a point here in Connecticut where our economic development future is directly tied to our ability to create more housing of every flavor. So wherever you come from, wherever you call home, I ask you to participate at the local level. Go to your town board meetings. We need to grow, and we need to learn how to grow again, because the more people we can bring to Connecticut, the more GDP we're going to create, the more tax revenues we're going to create, the more opportunity we're going to have for our own children. I've got a 19-year-old and a 14-year-old. I want to keep them not in my basement, but nearby. And let me just give you a couple little stats, and then I'll let you go. Connecticut has 6 of the top 10 tightest housing markets in America. 6 of the top 10. We have 40%, 39.6% of our 18 to 26-year-olds living at home. Second highest in the nation. And when you go from 25 to 40, 20% of that population still lives at home. And they live at home because we're not creating housing opportunities for them to move out into. So I ask you, when you go back home and you think about what your town needs, participate. Participate. If it's single-family homes where you are, build more single-family homes. If it's multifamily, build those multifamily. Whatever it is, participate, because it's your participation that's going to create a better future for Connecticut. Just being here today tells me you're already in. So I'm giving you a little help. Participate at your local level. With that, I'll let you go. Thank you again for coming. Thank you for being here in Hartford.
Right on the number. David Griggs, thank you. And on the heels of that, I think it's only apropos that we bring in the great mayor of the city of Hartford, Mayor Arunan Arulampalam. Come on up, Mayor. I'm a big fan.
Is this on? Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it so much. Look, we in the city of Hartford so deeply appreciate our entrepreneurs, our businesses, our small businesses and large businesses, the folks who are helping us as a city dust off the gut punch of COVID, get back up and build investment, build excitement, build vibrancy that is carrying our city forward. It is great to be with all of you guys. This is my first event. I got to meet some of the folks from Rebellion at a ribbon cutting we had at the Foundry, which is in a restaurant not far from here on Constitution Plaza. If any of you haven't been there, millions of dollars of investment at the top floor of the Hartford Steam Boiler building, a dining experience that is unparalleled. I saw State Senator Ryan Fazio here from Greenwich. I think better than anything, with all due respect, from Fairfield County. A great dining experience. And I said at that ribbon cutting, I think what I say at most ribbon cuttings, which is that when folks invest in a business here in the city of Hartford, they are taking a risk on our city. They're taking a risk on the state and the economy and the city. And we value that risk so much that we want to come alongside of you and support you, because you drive the excitement, the energy, the growth that we see and we so need in the city. And we want to come along and partner with you in terms of dollars. We've created a HeartLift program that has helped incubate and provide dollars for build out of businesses in our downtown that's brought so much life back to our city. We want to help in the regulatory requirements. In my first year in office, we cut permitting times down by 57% in our first year, just to make it a lot easier for folks to start up a business, to develop here. That's also led to more investment in our housing. As David mentioned, it's a choke point for so many communities in Connecticut. We have the second lowest number of permits in the country. But in Hartford, we are seeing a change in that. We are seeing hundreds of millions of dollars more of investments in businesses and in housing because of our permitting times. And an investment in the future of innovation in this city, which we are doing through an AI center that we are developing right now with all of our major corporations and all of our higher ed institutions all at the table to try to innovate here, leaning on our young folks coming out of college in our college system to build out one of the most advanced ecosystems, one of the most advanced workforces for AI in the country. And a program that Google is interested in, that Harvard has been involved in. We are trying to think way beyond our weight when it comes to innovation and job growth here in the capital city, and you are all such a big piece of that. So it is great to be with you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you contribute to our shared economy. It is such an honor to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I'll see you at Camp Current.
Yes,
Let's hope.
I'll be there.
Next month. I can't wait.
Thank you, guys.
One of our great charities from the city of Hartford, Camp Current, the mayor and I have been involved with for many, many years. So next up, we'd like to bring up Senator Ryan Fazio from the Connecticut State Senate, coming up here from Greenwich.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Good evening, good afternoon, Shaping CT's Future. Thank you for having me. My name is Ryan Fazio. I serve in the Connecticut State Senate, and as of last week, I'm also a candidate for governor of Connecticut. First of all, I want to say thank you for investing in Connecticut and believing in Connecticut. There is so many good reasons for you to do that. First and foremost, we have good people in this state, strong communities, the third most educated workforce in the country, natural beauty, a great location. Yet we also face challenges in Connecticut that we need to address to make the future better, to shape a brighter future. We have the third highest tax burden and the third highest electric rates in the country, and we have too much red tape that we need to work on loosening, like the mayor was talking about. The good news is we can do those things. The most important things are deeply rooted like the good people and communities. And the challenges are things that are fixable. We can cut taxes by $1,500 at least for the average household in the state. We can reduce electric bills by 20%, I believe, if we eliminate that public benefits charge. That's hurting not only families, but also manufacturers and technology companies which need affordable electricity. We can cut red tape, we can expand healthcare access, and more. I truly believe the best days for our state are ahead of us, that the future can be brighter than ever before for Connecticut, if only we have the right policies and leadership in place. But most of all, it's because of people like you who are innovative, bold, smart, hardworking. You will lead the brighter days for Connecticut. So thank you for being here. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for investing in Connecticut. And thank you for having me.
Thanks, Senator. Man, if I had hair like him, I'd be on the network. Okay. Next up, we want to bring to the stage Daniel Barron. Daniel is from HB Live. Hi, Daniel.
Thank you. Is this on? Mic check? Yeah, a little bit. Hi, everybody. How you doing? Thank you for taking the time to come out. I'm from Connecticut. Come from a family of family businesses on both sides of my family. One of those businesses is HB Live. So tonight, if you've been to past events, we produce all, the stage, the video walls, streaming, audio, and we do galas, corporate events, any kind of event you could imagine. We just do a great job. So I'm here to share my family story and let you know if you guys are producing any events, we would love the opportunity to help you. We dedicate a lot of time to making sure that the experience is great, especially if you're doing events with executives and the flow needs to be really on point, and the mics, and making sure everybody's queued up, and the amazing team over there who makes an event like this work. So we'd appreciate the opportunity to work with you if you're working on an awesome event. And on a personal note, Bryn was nice enough to let me share a story. So as an entrepreneur myself, helping my family businesses, I was always working on things on the side. This year, actually next month, I'm launching a project that I've been working on for, I don't think I can share how long because that'd be embarrassing. I've been working on this for a long time, and for the last 3 years, we've been building strong. So I'm sure many of you use collaboration tools like Slack, Microsoft Teams in your corporate environment, and for B2B users, you're probably using Dropbox and Zoom and text and email and Stressed Out. So starting next month, we built Airwave to make a really easier user experience for your teams. All those features that you see in the big tools built in an iPhone app. And then hopefully next year, after we get the initial users, we'll be launching a desktop version. So if anyone out there likes playing with tools, if you don't mind scanning that QR code to get on the waiting list, we would love early users and early feedback who would love to kind of play around with it. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the event.
Thanks, Dan. We want to now introduce Bob Ruffalo. He's the founder and CEO of Impact. They are a marketing and sales training company that empowers businesses to grow through innovative strategies and strong leadership. Bob, can we bring you up right now? Let's hear it for Bob.
Thank you.
How are you?
Thank you. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Shaping CT. Let's give it up for Rebellion Group for putting together just an incredible event. I had the opportunity to go to their last event that they had at Foxwoods, and I was just incredibly impressed. And when they told me that the next theme was going to be leadership and entrepreneurship, I felt like we had to be part of this. And I just think it's so impressive, the collective genius that they brought here together, all of us today. So my advice is just really take advantage of this. There are some really, really incredible people in this facility today, and what an incredible opportunity it is. Just really quick, I don't want to bore anybody, but hopefully everyone got a copy of this sample of our book called Endless Customers. So what it is obviously growing businesses, customer acquisition is getting harder. If we think about Google and the world's changing, and now we have AI, Google's sending a lot less traffic to websites. We might be seeing that ourselves in our brands, that we're getting a lot less traffic to our websites, and it's making it harder to generate customers. So how do we get our brands recommended by AI? What type of content we have to create to train these models? How we use that content to close deals faster? Well, that's what Endless Customers is all about, and my company helps you implement the Endless Customer system in your business. So if you have any interest in this and you're looking to grow your business, we have a booth set up in the next room. And again, please just enjoy the event, and I'm honored to be here. Thanks, everyone.
Bob, thanks. Appreciate it. And as the room fills up a bit more, it's perfect time to bring up one of the driving forces behind all of this. When we were doing this in Cheshire a year ago, he was really one of the cornerstones of making all of this happen, and look where we are now. So please welcome me in joining BJ Keto. Yeah, we know BJ. BJ is president and chief strategy officer of Rebellion Group. He is the co-founder of Virtuoso. BJ has redefined how organizations leverage data, AI, and innovative thinking to accelerate growth. We know him. It's BJ. Thank you for sharing the stage. Thank you for doing this.
Appreciate the intro. Thank you for unknowingly coming to my TED Talk audition. So yeah. What I wanted to do was kind of give us a mindset and something to think about as we look at starting and scaling and sustaining and mentoring businesses. How can we take our collective expertise and knowledge and enable a broader amplification of impact? And starting with the idea of everything you think you know is based off flawed data. For businesses, in business, that is a 3.1 trillion annual loss from business decisions based off of misattributed data. Gartner said 13 to 15 million for an average company is lost annually due to poor data decisions. And 58% of business leaders say that key business decisions are based on inaccurate data all or most of the time. But growth, our decisions, our approach, how we expand our markets, how we develop products, everything that we do is based off of this data and reaching new customers. We're spending $44.2 billion each year on customer data, acquiring, cleaning, sorting, building lists, buying lists. There are 9,000 of me, practitioners, right, for every single Fortune 500 company, all focused on getting to the customer, using data, nurturing, engagement. We'll spend $1 trillion in 2025 on ad spend, $456 billion in the US. There have been 24 quintillion ads served on the internet, right? The game of telephone that we used to play when we were kids, right? The message breaks down 80% after 6 steps. We're at 24 quintillion. There's 1.4 million agencies and businesses that are optimizing and changing ads and testing and feeding in this data. There's 15,000 plus MarTech and AI solutions that we're leveraging to activate this data. It said that there are 10,000 data points collected on each and every one of us. And yet, 3% is a good engagement rate. 40% of businesses don't know basic demographic information about their customers. The average cost for customer acquisition has increased 222% over the last 10 years. Our ability to use data is really seemingly off the charts. There's $400 billion that will be wasted this year on targeting and communicating and nurturing and trying to engage the wrong audience. So what the fuck? How? Why? All this investment, all these smart folks. Well, 95% of decisions are driven by subconscious psychological factors. All of that behavior, or all that data, is based off behavior. Behavior we took way back when you signed up for your CDs for a penny, when you mailed in your service merchandise purchase, the wrapping paper that we all gamified the system to win the free pizza party. And then early internet. The chat rooms that we all know we're not talking to a 18-year-old single college student, right? The MySpaces, the data that what we put as our interest and as our about is what has been collected and used and built upon year after year. Take Axiom as just an example. This is not a knock on anyone that's affiliated with Axiom, very respected company. But 15 acquisitions, 40 years before an investment was made in data quality or data onboarding. This means that our customer profiles in platform or as we know them are, this is conservative, most of the time it's higher than 70%, but 70% based off of probabilistic matching. That means we're trusting data to link my looney2ski@aol.com email and what I did 25 years ago to my current actions to build a profile on me. Only 30% is based off of deterministic connections, true connections, matches of real information. And 75% of people are opting out of device tracking. 10 to 30% of profiles are inaccurate because we can't enter information properly or it can't be maintained properly. 40% of our online behavior is false. It's how do we want to be perceived? And 20 to 60% of data is incorrect or flawed because of shared devices, when our kids use our devices, when we're on our work Wi-Fi and our home Wi-Fi, when we're traveling. We're writing off 62% of the market before we even get started because of inaccuracies in data. So when we look at the target engagement rate, the good engagement rate of 3%, and we're starting from 30% of our intended audience is actually who we reach with our targeting, with our messaging, and I have a quality conversion rate of 5%, we actually end up connecting with 0.05% of our intended audience. And then what happens? Oh shit, we need ROAS, we need return, we need results. So we focus on retention, we focus on retargeting, we focus on lookalikes, we build models off of our core customers, shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking what was originally a much broader audience. But this doesn't actually address the fact that 62% of the original audience is poof, gone. What happened? Well, we lost our nerve. Back in 1888, some brilliant scholar determined that it took 20 touches before a customer was ready to buy. 1930 to 90s, the rule of 7 touches. There was the misnomer of 2.2 times or whatever, but rule of 7 widely adopted. Now in 2025, we are so short-sighted and so quick to need the conversion, not build a brand, but to get a transaction. We spend 2 turns on, oh, that should be enough for them to know that we exist. 2 to 3 more, maybe they'll buy. Oh, they showed some intent. Let's hit them 3, 5 times. Didn't get a transaction. They must not be interested. Let's write them off. That then goes back to our data sets and says that person actually isn't in the market. Let's remove them from the next list. The answer is not to accumulate more data. We're going to accumulate more data. Data's good. I love data. I love research. This is not a knock on data, but it is a call for us to maintain our awareness and keep our eyes open. Because we're losing our humanity. 78% of businesses use machine learning and AI. 95% of customer transactions will be AI assisted by the end of this year. By 2027, LLMs will surpass traditional search. It took 4.5 years for 100 million users to use Facebook monthly. It took 2 months for ChatGPT. The world is evolving at a breakneck pace. The answer is not to have faith in the investment of validation and monetization, because there's still the need to monetize lists, monetize data, monetize platforms, right? We can't trust that that's going to happen. The answer is in what we call an exponentially human quotient, or XQ. It is our constant learnings, our data, but our smarts and experience, and the models that we built off success of prior experiences, prior observations, mixed with real good old emotional intelligence, emotional quotient. Understanding more about our target than just behavior, than just their last click. And embracing AI, which is shifting value and the focus for many of our industries, to master it to amplify our efforts. But maintaining the sense of humanity, the humanity that will drive connection, the humanity that will allow lightning bolt, goosebump, deja vu moments that we all try to build our businesses to deliver to customers. Quick example, I know you guys are getting tired of me, right? The ultra-luxury SUV market, traditionally 3 personas. The reality is, what did we talk about before? We're writing off a big part of the market. They're really sophisticated, so let's say 60% of the total addressable market is by these core marketing personas. If we wipe out the bias and we look at category, value, motivation, where buyers can come from and what they look like, we can understand more nuanced, deeper insights around who a persona is and what drives them, and get more coverage, more understanding of the coverage of the market. But then we have to look at the brand itself, right? Very successful brand. The ethos, the founding story, its values, what it was built upon, that is a persona. The expression, how it goes to market, what it says, who it partners with, marketing, communications, all of the messaging, its expression, and how it's perceived. Those personas are unique brand dimensions. It's not about a single brand gap or who we are today and who we want to be tomorrow, because there's equity built there. We have to build upon it. There's congruency here, 70%. But they only correlate to our target of traditional personas, 40%. So we're missing. We just keep throwing it away. Significant inefficiencies. It comes down to personality. Behavior is in the past. Behavior is reflective of what happened and assumes decisions will not change. If anyone saw Minority Report or iRobot or any of those others, there's flaws in that logic. So we need to understand the total population, and we need to understand their implicit drivers, who they are at their core. Just because I never bought brown shoes online before doesn't mean I may not be in the market, but who is a profile that would be interested? What are their traits, their characteristics? Are they autonomous driven? Are they peer driven? If we can understand the most common personality traits, see the patterns, cluster the patterns, we can rebuild target customers. Target customers that cover much more of our marketplace. And then use cognitive bias, use what is actually inhibiting action, conversion, to be able to address it before they're even in their decision, their consideration set. 95% are made subconsciously. We can reach their subconscious before they know it, giving them the value that they will already go through in their head because we understand who they are as people. As people, right? The humanity of it. For businesses, this lets us open up the market by 150%. You don't have to do a thing, right? Deeper understanding of who your customers should be. You don't have to change operations. You don't have to come up with new products. You don't have to rebrand. You don't have to pivot. And we eliminate the initial write-off. We reduce the reliance on probabilistic data. And now, the holy grail, first party, no, we're collecting real, new, valid first party, intrinsic data, ex-party data. I don't know, I made it up for this. We can name it together. We can increase engagement, right, for a better understanding of who they are with more purposeful creative, more impactful messaging that will be shared, that will resonate, that will not die in the feed with higher emotional resonance, and then reduce the waste that we spend on ads. It will produce smarter business decisions. This mindset, if you adopt it, if we commit, you commit, to have the conviction to relentlessly improve our IQ. We don't know it all. We have to constantly be students of the marketplace to build upon our experiences so that we have the nerve to trust our EQ. What is our gut saying? What is our head saying? The head and the heart. And embrace AI. Master AI. Right now, we are worried about what AI will do to our respective industries. Our industries are still going to be there. Our industries were there after the computer. Our industries were there after a million other evolutions and innovations. How we use it to improve our ability to do our job, to market, to engage, to build business, to get efficient, logistic efficiencies, whatever it may be. Amplifying our capability there and believing in humanity as the X factor. That cannot be replaced, right? The ability for AI to summarize mass sets of data, absolutely, great wayfinding. But to sit face to face, to understand that you've been in that situation before, you've seen that person before, and you've made that call before, or others before you have, to call that together is not something that we can just give away to AI. This mindset, XQ, is the future of critical thinking and imaginative work. And the hope is that together, right, we can reprioritize and realize that the starting point of data is a great starting point, but we have to build a more purposeful and strategic way forward given a collective humanity. So that's our summary of XQ.
DJ. All right, thank you so much, BJ. So we're going to shift now. We're going a little Shark Tank on you. It's our pitch competition, and these are our finalists. We have 4. We want to first introduce Kim Conti. And Kim, she's from Orbit Crates. They are helping families to cut down on clutter with a toy rental subscription service. Instead of buying toys that pile up, parents can now rent, return, and refresh what's in their homes. And after piloting in Connecticut with more than 60 successful rentals and strong engagement, Orbit Crates has proven families want this solution. They're looking to scale, building their founding team. They're attracting investors and bringing this model to households across Connecticut and beyond. Kim, come on up here. Orbit Crates. Our judges, Kim, are watching. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm
doing. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good. We're glad to have you. You have 2.5 minutes for your pitch.
Great. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Conti, a local Connecticut mom of 3 and a former chief AI product officer taking my 20 years of tech to disrupt the $25 billion toy industry. As a parent, I saw firsthand how massive consumption was ruining our household. We spent more time picking up, organizing toys than we did actually playing with them. We spent thousands of dollars on toys my kids quickly outgrew. At the same time, my kids were still bored and overstimulated. For the parents in this room, this might resonate. For others, let me give you a few staggering statistics. Today in our households, we have more than 272 million unused kids and baby items, which actually isn't that surprising when you consider the fact that 3% of the world's kids in the US consume 40% of the world's toys. On average, these toys are used for 6 months at a time. Then it isn't surprising that 6% of our landfills are made up from toys. And clutter is often cited as the #1 reason for stress in our households. All of this, despite the fact that early childhood education and research tells us that kids do better with the fewer toys they have. The good news is Orbit Crates is solving this problem for parents of kids ages 1 to 5 through a toy rental membership. It helps them reduce clutter, save money by renting toys instead of owning them. Today, parents can shop for more than 500 toys on our website and get them delivered clean to their doorstep. The kids have the joy of unboxing something new, and the parents have the peace of mind the toys aren't going to stick around for long. You can swap when your kids are bored or they've outgrown their interest, all on a subscription-based model. We've seen tremendous traction since we've launched across the state. We've completed more than 60 rentals and counting. We've converted many of our pilot customers to subscription customers on our platform that just launched in May. We've consistently received 5 out of 5-star reviews and recommendations. On average, our customers save $137 every time they rent instead of own. We've seen organic growth on our mailing list and our social media following, and consistently get market feedback from manufacturers to play studios to preschools who are interested. But this isn't just an obvious business opportunity for parents. It's a great business opportunity that takes place on the circular economy and sustainability. It takes hold of multiple revenue streams. It leverages our AI assistant to capture toy data so that we can fundamentally disrupt the toy industry to a data-driven one. Our impact will allow us to scale to the next phase of business to tackle more than 130,000 families across the state today. Thank you so much for your time today. We're excited about changing the future of play to save our homes, save our kids, and save our planet.
Couple of questions. We're over here. Tell us a little bit more about logistics. Where are you sourcing the toys? How are you delivering them? And when they're done being rented, how are you getting them back?
Yeah, great question. So right now, the majority of our inventory was purchased new because we were really focused on product market fit. So we were listening to our customers and trying to understand what toys were interesting to them. Over time, what we're seeing is there's just general organic traction from the marketplace. So we're getting a massive amount of donations. So one of the things that we're doing is we're actually using AI technology to be able to use computer vision to take a bag of toys, quickly inventory what's in that bag of toys, and bring it onto our website. So over time, our inventory will shift from brand new purchase to donations, and that's how we're getting our inventory in the door today. From a logistics standpoint, what we do is we deliver to doorstep delivery for our customers today, and we swap out when they're done. So they can go on our site, and then they pick a calendar date when they're ready to swap, which for customers, that means there are no late fees and no set return dates. Long term, we expect to launch a premium model where there's an additional charge for the service.
Who is doing that delivery and pickup? Are you using Amazon or someone? Or are you actually doing that now?
Right now, it's done in-house. Over time, we do intend to use last mile logistics and third-party partners to do that at scale.
What would be your 3 top priorities for the next quarter?
Sure. So it's absolutely scaling our warehousing by being able to do this at scale. The other is marketing and our go-to-market strategy. So we're already working with some social media influencers and micro-influencers in the state. We're about to launch our go-to-market referral program where customers basically get a store credit for recommending, and also they get a store credit for decluttering with us. So we're really focused on our go-to-market scale from that perspective. And third is our technology investment as well. We're really focused on, we're actually using agentic AI to build our own tech platform, invest in our inventory database, which we think will give us a competitive moat. This will also give us and help us invest in our AI assistant, and this will help parents better match and find toys that are appropriate for them. So as we focus on things like lifetime value, customer retention, and reducing churn, we believe that with an AI personalized assistant, this investment will be invaluable to our customers.
Congratulations, you're doing a great job, Kim. You're a very serious performer and presenter. My question to you is, why do you want to do this? Entrepreneurship is incredibly hard. The hours are going to be grueling. You're going to be alone a lot. You're going to sacrifice a lot. What is your driver or motivation for wanting to take on this mission?
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely see there is a gap in the marketplace. I think there are not a lot of solutions that are serving parents, moms, and households. And I think connection is the core value really for our company. So we think about wanting to help kids again. I think help kids and help parents learn how to play again, keep them off screens. It's really mission driven to bring play back into the home. Connecticut recently just, I know there's an initiative around play across the state, right? And we really believe that play is important to help healthier, happier homes. So that's number one. I think number two is also thinking about environmental impact. I mean, if you look at macro trends, we rent our homes, we rent our cars, toys and kids items seem like an obvious choice as well.
All right, Kim, Orbit Crates. I like it. Good luck. We can say we knew you when.
Great, thank you.
Nice job, Kim. We're going to bring the next competition member to the stage. It's Nico Zarita and Luciano Diaz. They are from Vamos Vamos. They're building a platform designed to bring people together, and they've just onboarded their first live customers, and they're preparing to launch the next version of their product sometime in the next couple of weeks. So Nico, Luciano, come on up.
Thank you so much. Good, how are you? Let me know when I'm ready.
You're a go. Go for it.
Awesome. Hey, I'm Nico, founder and CEO of Vamos. I spent my career leading HR teams that are primarily remote, and that typically means that I'm going to be overseeing all travel. And I know how much pain it is to go through the travel process, from the planning, the coordination, everything that happens. It's terrible. By the time you get there, you're frustrated, and you just want to exit. And what I've realized is the pain is not actually within the booking itself. Rather, the pain is going to be everything that happens, the coordination layer. It is a nightmare going through tools, back and forth planning. That's where Vamos is different. Where other companies are focused on the actual booking process, we are focused on everything that happens before that. The research, the collaboration, and the budgeting aspects of this trip. We've built a single platform where you can plan and get recommendations in seconds, collaborate through interactive polls, budget with your team, share, and then finally book through our platform. And we meet you where you are. With integrations with all the tools that you use, we can move forward so that you don't feel the pains. We make money through commissions with larger groups. We get larger multiples, about $2,000 per group. And because of that, we're able to go and have a freemium platform. You can try our platform completely free. When you love what you see, you can then get our SaaS-based platform with all the integrations and additional product features. And because of that, we can sell to any level of the organization. We're not trying to get approval from the CEO. We can buy in wherever we can. We just started last year. We had no bookings, no revenues, no customers. This year, we have over $40,000 in commissionable revenue, 100 nights booked, and next year, once we launch our platform, we're going to be able to take off. And really, the magic with us is our team. We have over 30 years of experience in startups. We've worked together for 10 years with experience in seed, unicorns, and IPOs. Our ask is simple. If you're a remote team, try us. If you're an investor, come talk to me. We're fundraising soon. And for our panel judges, help validate us as one of the next great companies in Connecticut. We're building something category defining. It's not booking, it's not planning. Where traditional tools are crowded, planning is non-existent. It's upstream, and we are here to change the future of Connecticut. Thank you so much.
In any great entrepreneurial venture, there's really two questions that have to be answered. Why now and what's different? So really quickly, in the interest of time, Why does this make sense now, and what is unique and compelling about it?
So I think right now the future of work is changing. I think there's just a debate about remote versus not remote, but more companies are hybrid. There's going to be 18% of companies remote, 64 are hybrid. No one focuses on the planning aspect because it's not easily commodity. You can't generate money. But if you start early, that's why. So the changing demographic of how people work is why. And the second part of your question was? I think that there's no other tool that's upstream. There's no collaboration tool. It's typically going to be distributed. You're on TripAdvisor, figuring out where. You're on Expedia. You're using spreadsheets to budget. You're on Notion to share it with your team. There's no one platform that brings everything together that helps you plan and your teams know where you're going to go, when you're going to go.
It's a pretty competitive marketplace out there. How do you go to market? How are you going to get attention? How are you going to get people to use this?
Right now, we're going after typically fully remote companies. That's going to be our in. Typically, companies between 50 and 50 people. They don't have any booking platforms, and they're using B2C. So there's an interest to kind of consolidate, understand who's traveling, how much they're spending. And those companies love this platform because right now, it's the head of people. It's the CEOs that are planning. This is saving them time. Every single customer we've booked with has come back to us. They've said, we will pay for your platform. This is great. We've seen a general interest so that it's not so distributed. This is bringing everything in one centralized collaborative place.
What's your biggest pain point?
Our biggest pain point right now is just this tends to be a very legacy industry. There's 3 GDSs and it's getting even more distributed. So we need to work with these legacy technologies, and it's not easy to work with the GDS that's built on COBOL and all these older systems. So we need great engineering to integrate with so many different systems so that you get one experience, not a distributed, fragmented experience that people are experiencing today.
Nico, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck. Good luck. All right, let's start filling the seats here up on the stage. So as I call you panelists, come on up to the stage. First of all, our moderator for this panel is Jennifer Matthews. She's Executive Director for CCEI. Jennifer is no stranger to our Shaping CT's Future in the past. So Jennifer, come on up. Our speakers, Bert Wachtelhausen, he's the founder and former president of WellSpark Health. Ned Lamangora, he's the founder of SAR AI and 387 Labs. Harrison Macris, the co-founder and CEO of Princeton Carbon Works. Jesse Kropelnicki, the CEO, a board member of Verdantis. And Bill Schufelt, the co-founder and CEO, we all know, Athletic Brewing. Come on up. Come on up, Ned. Is it here where I sit? Wherever you want, Harrison. Hey, how's it going?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jennifer Matthew. I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, which is housed at the University of Connecticut. And I am so proud of the 2 startups that you just had the chance to hear. They have been a part of CCEI programs, and you'll hear from 2 more later on. And there's also 9 in total in the other room. So you've heard, hopefully, their podcasts that went live last week. It's just such an amazing experience to have them up on stage sharing what they're building. And the thing that I love most about supporting entrepreneurs is the fact that many of these entrepreneurs are thought leaders in their industries, right? So they are very much looking to solve a problem for specific customers and become so passionate about that they know more probably than they want to about the industry, the problems, the challenges, and the opportunities. And that's what we're here to talk about today. I have 5 amazing thought leaders across manufacturing, AI, consumer products, healthcare. We could be up here for hours diving into these conversations, but really we want to focus on talking about entrepreneurship, talking about innovation, and really thinking about the future of Connecticut as it relates to those areas. Are we ready to get going? All right, so I'm gonna have our panelists go down the line. I would like them to introduce themselves, share a little bit about the business that they are operating, and we'll go from there.
Very cool. Excited to be here. My name is Bill Schufelt, co-founder and CEO of Athletic Brewing Company. We're right down the road in Milford, Connecticut. We set out about 7 years ago to change the way the world drinks. In short, it's a lofty statement, but if you think back just 10 years ago, moderation was totally off the table. There was no other side of the menu. It was alcohol, or you were not in the moment, or you were making a huge sacrifice. And we wanted to set out to make non-alcoholic beverages exciting, uncompromising, and really welcome a lot of people into great occasions, great flavors, and bring people a lot of enjoyment. So we set out with that goal. We launched commercially 7 years ago. I've been working on it over 10 years. Building right here in our backyard in Connecticut, and it's just been brick by brick since then, and we're now bigger than Heineken, Anheuser-Busch, and everyone in the non-alcoholic beer category, and it's been a fun ride so far, and excited to share more.
Hello, everyone. My name is Roberta Wachelhausen. I go by Bert, and I've been in the health plan and health insurance business for a long time. And in those years, I saw firsthand the high cost of healthcare, as we all feel every day. For a couple of years, I stepped out of healthcare, and I went to work at an employee assistance company. And I saw firsthand the anxiety and stress that people were under that put them into the emergency room. I'd listen on the phones, and that's what people were saying. I'm so stressed out that I ended up in the emergency room. And of course, my healthcare brain said, don't do that. That's 400 times more expensive than going to the doctor. So I said, imagine a world where we could help people and keep them out of the emergency room and out of the hospital in the first place. Imagine a world. And so I put the pieces of, we are a health coaching company, WellSpark. We started in 2018. We came out of Connecticut, who's owned by Emblem Health in New York, and we built a health coaching model that combined mind, body, and social work to try to help people knock down whatever the barrier was in their life that was standing in the way of their health. So we grew that business, and it was, full disclosure, sold in the beginning of 25 to Vitality, a South African company. And it was a really good move for the company. And now I advise clients on how to scale and grow startups, especially in the healthcare business.
Hello, my name's Harrison Macris. I am the co-founder and president of Princeton Carbon Works. We were born out of Princeton, New Jersey. My other partners all went to Princeton University. I did not. I went to BU. So go Terriers. And someone's out there. And we sort of had the lofty goal about 10 years ago to reinvent competitive carbon fiber wheels for cyclists. So it was sort of a slow start, a slow burn to get going. I joined full-time in 2019, and the business with COVID and everything exploded. We made some really good strategic moves, but the core goal was to sort of reinvent the wheel, more or less. And you may have seen it in the Olympics. We've had a number of athletes win Olympic gold medals at the Paris Olympics. We had a couple stage wins at the most recent Tour de France. So the business exploded. It became a global brand in the matter of a couple years. And yeah, we're continuing to innovate and grow and develop new products. We do everything from design engineering, computational fluid dynamics, all the way to final wheel assembly, warehousing, packaging. So it's a sort of top to bottom product company.
Hi, my name is Ned Lomigora. I'm the founder of 387 Labs, and I started company in 21. I had a software company before that, very successful, and I started seeing more use of machine learning and data science. And before ChatGPT came out in November 22, I kind of decided to jump in and start AI first company, and the rest is history. We are over 60 AI engineers across the 3 continents. We're in South America, Europe, US. So we have over 50 clients, over 200 implementations. I also do other projects. I hope we can talk about it, such as GPU Center in Southeastern Europe, building an incubator, AI incubator, and also planning for an AI hackathon.
My name is Jesse Kropelnicki. I am the CEO and board member at a company called Verdantis. A little bit about my background, and then I'll talk a little bit about Verdantis. I've done a lot of different things throughout my career. I was an entrepreneur. I started 3 separate companies. I was a professional Ironman coach for about 15 years in there, so used a lot of wheels like you guys develop over the years. And I've worked for, obviously myself, being an entrepreneur. I've worked for ESOPs. I've worked for a large public company. And finally, now at Verdantis. We're private equity backed, and really the whole vision for Verdantis 5 years ago was to develop a really inspiring culture that the architecture, engineering, and consulting space really needed, right? That's an old industry. And we thought if we created a really people-focused environment that has an energy that's an infectious culture, we can create something special. At the same time, we're focused on environmental stewardship, engineering. We have a huge technology focus, obviously very advanced on the AI side, to help enable and stay at the forefront of everything we're doing on behalf of our clients, and having a blast, living life, and enjoying it all the way along.
So everyone here in this audience is obviously interested in entrepreneurship and leadership. That's why they're here, hopefully, and the tie into Connecticut. And what I heard from all of you is building your business here in Connecticut, growing and making an impact on the world. Each of you had talked about that in your intros. I think that's amazing. And obviously your industries are very different, and talking about innovation and technology adoption and adoption of maybe bringing something new to a market when your customers may not be ready, and informing them about that through that process. I'm curious to hear more about how innovation has impacted you in your role in your industry, and then how do you stay true to that mission while exploring those new markets and technologies. And Bert, I'm going to turn that to you actually first.
Sure. Well, in our business at WellSpark, our core mission was this bio and psycho and social model of health coaching. And the more we coached individuals, and we were a B2B play, so we sold to employers so that they can implement these programs for their employees. And the more we were having success and showing success through data, how we were able to help people, and the measurement wasn't just in the elusive, I can reduce your health cost, but we were showing improved morale, we were showing productivity improvements with these employers. And so the more we were successful, the more employers were coming to us and saying, can you also help with fill in the blank? So some of the markets that we opened, or product lines that we opened because of our success working one-on-one, was a group coaching model where we were helping teachers in the Bronx in New York. The city of New York was one of our customers, so think about that kind of a monster client. But teachers were burned out after COVID, so we built a program around solving that problem. We built a program coming out of COVID helping nurses with compassion fatigue, again, burnout. So the more we were successful with an individual, the more our clients were coming to us and saying, hey, can you help me solve this other problem? Now, there were times when we had to say no. There were times when we were successful and our client would say, hey, you know, I want to replace this vendor who, we had nurses as coaches too. You know, we have people with diabetes who are wearing a continuous glucose monitor, and why don't you guys help those folks? And I said, no, 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 that's not our business. So it's, as an entrepreneur, a startup, you want to say yes to any dollar, any customer that you might have. And we did resist a couple times because that would have expanded us way out of our lane. So we found markets to open while staying true to our core mission.
Happy to jump in. You know, at Verdantis, we're a services business, professional services. So the asset really is human beings, and how that dovetails into technology is really important, right? Technology evolves, and we will all adapt technology at different rates. Usually companies and organizations that get a competitive advantage are those that you know, follow a really meaningful change management, change leadership, I like to use that term instead, approach with their staff, right? So for us, again, it's not necessarily about having the technology and the tools and the innovation. We have that. It's how quickly we can build trust with our people. And just to give you something tangible to take away, I always keep a four-part change model in mind, mostly because it's easy to remember. Number one, you as a leader, you have to role model it. If you have a technology person and you have them present every new technology, you will not nearly get the buy-in compared to if you do it yourself. When they see the leader, the founder, the CEO use technology, then it means something to them, number one. Number two, it has to pass the logic test, meaning look through their lens. Does the technology present something tangibly better for them that will make their lives more efficient and or better, right? Number three, you have to build the training around it, right? Which requires a lot of touch points. We saw a presentation earlier. It could be 20, it could be 7, it could be 5, but you have to provide a lot of touch points and training around it. And last but not least, you got to make it easy. You have to align all of your systems at the company around that change, right? And many times change means innovation, means technology, and that's why it's important, right? So that's the way we're seeing it through at Verdantis.
Yeah, from very similar experiences on those, and in adding to that, in different perspective from the athletic team, I was very much an accidental entrepreneur, never fashioned myself as an entrepreneur whatsoever. I loved being an independent operator in a company, just doing my job and like working for the rest of my life, basically. And like work was a thing I did. And ironically enough, now like work is my favorite part of my life. But the reason I made that switch was like I had such an authentic interest and the impact I wanted to have in the world with athletic brewing, positively impacting lives, not only the health impacts of alcohol, but just like welcoming people into great occasions, and all the ripple effects in society by just like making moderation accessible and non-judgmental, non-stigmatized. And so I was thinking about the business as a authentic long-term passion from day one, and that naturally extended my time horizon. So I was thinking as we started everything, how to build it to scale, and making sure everything I did at a small scale was where we wanted to be, pointing towards our North Stars, and everything worked at scale. And so I was thinking about being a great long-term employer in the state, building our manufacturing. How does that all work at not only the decision 3 months in front of our face, but like 10 years in the future? And like, what does that next few steps look like? And that was really helpful for me in communicating to investors, to our employees, like how I talk to them about their job and their future with the company. And so we put in very scalable programs from day one, like our Two for the Trails program is our core environmental program, which is 2% of revenue, up to $2 million a year, goes back into environmental access. Our Two for the Team, similarly, is our employee stock ownership plan. So 2% of company equity goes into a pool for the team, and like that's very scalable. Every single person in the company gets to join it. And so, but like everything we did, we tried to have with a long-term focus like that so that it wouldn't break or make painful board meetings down the road. And we had similar conversations with our investors too.
And I love hearing your story because you obviously were the consumer you built your product for. And I think some of us, either we're building it for ourselves or a problem that we directly faced in an industry that we worked in, and so passionate about driving that forward. And I love to hear the conversation here about scaling, about innovation. It's really hard to look 10 years down the road when you're really just trying to make things work for the next few months. I do have some really specific questions for each of you that I want to dive into because, again, each of your areas are so unique. And one topic that BJ had talked about a little while ago was really about AI. And so Ned, I want to dive in here and say, so someone who's building AI-driven companies, what do you think Connecticut needs to do to position itself as a hub for applied AI? And how do you ensure AI solutions remain ethical and human-centered while scaling?
That's a great question. So I would think, let's start with what Connecticut is doing already, which is really good. Connecticut is investing about $100 million over 5 years to innovation clusters. That's going to support build out of the not only a compute base, but also places where entrepreneurs can build new AI solutions, and it will combine academia, business, and the government. The other things they're doing is workforce training. That's also going pretty well, and really connecting the academia and businesses. What I think would be really beneficial for businesses like mine is for Connecticut to get more involved in providing tax credits and grants to companies like ours. Also to facilitate workshops or even proof of concept development, because in our experience, one of the hardest things in developing AI is that first step. So when you talk to the customer, there are lots of ideas, lots of things that they want to do. But that first step, you need an impetus to actually move on to that next first step. And I think if there is a government support, I think it will be much easier to get into these so-called risky steps, because it's inevitable that some of these will fail. And we also know that the failure rate is some of these proof of concepts is really high. I'll give you an example of Austria. They're doing this really well. They have invested tens of millions of euros into programs where they would give money to the universities, and then companies would bring projects to universities. That way, university students and professors get to work on these really real-world projects, and they're subsidized by the government. So the companies have more incentive, and they can take that risk to invent. So other things that we could do is to facilitate for companies like ours, more workshops where you can actually educate and provide educational kind of content, not just project work. We can, work with startup accelerators. We can have, small conferences where we can actually show how these things work and demystify AI. Because one of the, problems in implementation is usually people don't really know what they're working with. And just the fact that they all have a license for ChatGPT doesn't mean they actually are using it. It's kind of like having a treadmill in your house. It doesn't mean you're going to use it just because it's sitting there. So you have to change the culture. You have to change the approach to AI in order for them to use it. So these are some of the ways I would suggest Connecticut gets involved more. The other question was on the ethics I see this as we built something in my company called GenOS. It's a platform. We put human in the loop. We think the human should be central in all AI development. So this platform actually enables you to monitor what's going on with all these agentic workflows that you deploy in your company. Now you can have hundreds or thousands of agents running around doing things that you don't know, you're not aware of. And just like people, just like teams, their performance over time could degrade. They could be doing something dangerous. And that's something you want to catch and correct before it happens. So this platform, for example, enables you to have a long-term outlook on what's going on so they could correct performance, but also gives you red flags when something goes off the rails, like if there is a hallucination that threatens your business because it will give wrong answers to a client. You need to be able to stop that and correct it. So we also have other things in this platform that makes it easier for you to deploy POC and run POC to production, such as API Factory, which is just deploying connections immediately as soon as you implement the platform to various data sources and other systems. So those would be some of my recommendations.
Yeah, I love the concept of education and making what your first part of what you had said about making people aware of the use case of it, education to educate the workforce to help grow and expand. And there's a lot I think Connecticut's already doing. So it was great that you started with that and highlighted that whole point. Jesse, I'm going to turn it over to you. So you operate at the intersection of environmental consulting and infrastructure. How are you helping communities and businesses in Connecticut balance the economic growth with environmental responsibility?
Yeah, so again, we provide technical consulting solutions for both the engineering world and the environmental sciences world. So that means we do remediation. We also do natural resources and environmental planning for new development. So specific to Connecticut, one big value that we provide clients is for developers and real estate owners in many cases, help them redevelop old sites, or otherwise known as brownfield sites, such that they can unlock the value in those sites and move forward with their projects. So that's a big cross-section of what we do in Connecticut. And in addition to that, we also help support municipalities many times in getting funding for the projects that they want to move forward with. These are critical infrastructure projects that are important to their municipalities. So those are some of the key areas that we focus on in Connecticut.
And Harrison, your company is pioneering carbon fiber technology. What role do you see Connecticut's manufacturing space ecosystem playing in helping startups like yours bringing this product to a global market?
Well, that's we obviously have a lot of manufacturing expertise in the state. We build jet turbines, we've got helicopters, lots of aerospace, submarines. So at the very high end, we do really, really well. and we have a lot of skill at the very high end. The problem that I see is there's a big chasm from building a nuclear submarine to building a small startup product that you want to do. There's a huge gap there. And my biggest issue here is just talent, right? Finding talent, because when you're running a small team, you are really looking for individuals who are force multipliers. You need a guy that can do the work of 4 guys. So our biggest challenge being in Connecticut is getting the talent of what we would call exceptional engineers, exceptional product guys, exceptional marketing people. Forgive me if I say guys, I mean it colloquially as people. So, but yeah, we're having trouble in Connecticut. So I've always pushed for fostering a way to pull more talent. And we sort of do that internally. We tried to create a brand that was hot enough and attractive enough and compelling enough that we could call people up from MIT, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Brown, and say, hey, do you want an internship? Do you want to come down and work for the summer? Do you want to really get your hands dirty and learn, rather than the typical sort of, I don't want to be rude, but sort of like the commodity grade engineer, right? The commodity grade engineer, I studied engineering, they're the guys that they know all the calcs, you can plug them in, they'll design a pipe system on a submarine and it'll work, it'll never fail. But they're not going to move the needle for a small business like us when we need people that are doing, 80, 90, 100 hours a week of high output, really, really good stuff. In my experience, when you're running a startup in the early days, you have a much lower tolerance for loss and mistakes. You need people to perform. And if you make critical errors, then maybe you don't survive. So my biggest thing being in Connecticut is attracting talent, getting people that want to move here, getting young, excited individuals who don't want to move to Denver, Austin, San Francisco, New York City, Miami. It's really a challenge, because you have to say, hey, come move to Connecticut. We've got parks and the ocean, and it's a tough thing when you're looking for top talent, because you're competing with SpaceX. You're competing with like the top companies that are hiring in this space. So we have great manufacturing here. We lean on that. Sometimes we find the right person who has the expertise in composites that we need. We did a ton of work down. There was a company down, I think it was an old Sikorsky building, that a company bought and rented, and they started doing carbon fiber rowing shells and stuff like that. And one of their engineers there, the guy was a genius. And I could lean on him and say, hey, I want to cut some molds, I want to cut some tools, and he knew how to do it like that. So yeah, I mean, our manufacturing is fantastic, but we need to double down and sort of build the full stack of getting people that can do lots of different things rather than just like churning more. EB has to hire how many thousands of engineers over the next 5 years, but that doesn't help build 100 new businesses in the state either. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I think we struggle with that all the time when we're working with entrepreneurs. I obviously work at UConn. We're trying to navigate how do we support the next generation of individuals that are going out into the workforce and preparing them. I think when we're working with our entrepreneurs, we're struggling with the balance of needing a very specific expertise to build a technology and move it to the next level, but you also need someone that's super generalist and can do 5 other different roles within the organization, within the company. And Bill, I know that you've done a lot of work over the last almost 10 years at this point, scaling your business, and I'm sure you've experienced some of these other challenges that all of our panelists are talking about. Do you want to share a little bit more about the scaling process and how that maybe translates to other entrepreneurs, other businesses in Connecticut?
For sure. I think our experience touches on everything everyone has said so far, from leading from the front with technology, trying to integrate AI. In a lot of those types of tech-forward examples, we've really tried to give people time in their calendars to learn and experiment at a small scale rather than throw huge projects. And that's been a lot of fun for our company as we scale with technology. But like scaling with technology has been like a core belief for Athletic from day one. We started with the kind of equipment our budgets could afford. There were small footprint manufacturing facilities, fairly basic, things that most people could operate, low tech type stuff. And it's been really exciting we've always had a core belief where any time we could make a higher quality product, save our teammates time, make our teammates time more efficient and multiplied, like we've always invested out in front of those technologies for our team. And so it's been really fun to see those same teammates grow in the ecosystem. And so we originally ended our first year at about 5 employees in Connecticut. The next year was 25, 120 the year after that. We're at about 300 now. But it's been fun to see them go from operating a canning line where, you know, the cans kind of bounce along the line. They get filled 5 at a time, and then it bounces further down, to now it's like really highly robotic arm type machines that churn out 1,200 cans a minute. And it's very often the same teammates who have like learned, gotten continuing ed along the way and grown into that equipment. That's been really fun. And then on the other side of our business, it's similar. We have something under 5% voluntary turnover per year. So it's we've had a lot of teammates on like our marketing team, our finance team, and everything grow with us as well into a much bigger company with much broader responsibilities. Oftentimes like seeing international mandates, needing to travel overseas to get to know like a bigger business. And so, but it all kind of comes back to Connecticut here at the headquarters too. We acknowledged like we were a very small company without, like, non-alcoholic beer could not have been a less exciting spot to be recruiting people into 7 years ago. So we originally were hiring some remote teammates, but over time it's been great to be able to recruit people and say, no, the job is in the headquarters. And people are really excited to move here. And I think that's also a reflection of the changing towns around Connecticut too. I think particularly Stamford and New Haven have done an amazing job just in my lifetime living in the state my whole life. So it's a pretty exciting time with manufacturing growing in the state.
We're talking about employee retention, and Bert, I've got a very big question for you. How do you think employee well-being impacts long-term business success?
It's a big question, and the answer is very simple. It does. And as I started in my previous answer talking about how we've helped employers we're using our programs and continue to use programs like WellSparks to really solve business problems. So we have clients right here in Connecticut that used our program because they were in a high volume retail situation and everybody was burned out, stressed out. So they put the programs in, had high engagement, morale went up, and productivity went up. So it's, as I said before, it's not just keeping people well is like a pebble in a pond for a business owner, because now you don't have to go out and recruit because people are happy and they want to stay, and you don't have to train them. All the things we know as business leaders, that keeping an employee, a good employee, is worth its weight in gold. We have helped a health plan, as an example, with their business strategy in improving net promoter scores. So a health plan has a perception that, you know, maybe customer service isn't great, and so and a lot of things aren't great, but their net promoter score is pretty low. And with our programs and working with this one health plan, for every person that we touched of theirs, every member that we touched, the net promoter score went up to 8s and 9s. So that helps with member retention. So programs like ours solve for much, much more than, you know, the word wellness conjures up so many things. And so, but being very precise and sitting down with the client and saying, what are you trying to solve for, and building a program around that. But at the core of it is having an employee who is feeling good about themselves and their health, and not just physical health, but social health and psychological health as well. So big impact. Small dollars turn into a big deal for an employer if done right. And I say that because there's a lot of employers that just think you plug these programs in and they solve big problems, and when they don't, they're disappointed. And I just said, listen, we're in this together. I don't just roll the ball out onto the playground and expect people to play. I mean, we have to do this together, and it's all about your culture and creating a culture of health in your company so that you can solve the problems that you're trying to solve for. So thanks for the question, because it can be a big deal.
That's a great answer. So, Jimmy, am I allowed to have you go around and get questions from the audience? I'm just going to tee this up now because we can just start thinking about those questions. I have 2 more that I'd like to ask all 5 of our panelists to answer, but it at least will get you guys going through the thought process of what you might want to ask. So, how can Connecticut better position itself to support entrepreneurs like you in scaling big ideas?
I can start. We are struggling on even the municipal level to find the correct space where we need to work. We have a kind of highly specialized and sort of mixed use space that we need. So the state could help sort of down to the municipal level, because my town, we actually bought a state property. So where we operate now was a former state of Connecticut National Guard armory. They had put it on the surplus list. And they were going to sell it to the town of Stonington. Town of Stonington had first right of refusal. They ended up not buying it, and then it went out to a public sort of closed bid. And we ended up winning that property. The problem is when you buy an armory from the state of Connecticut, it's like, what is the zoning on an armory? It was used as an armory. And the town said, well, if you want to put a business in here, you're going to be non-conforming. You're not going to conform with the zone. And I said, well, do you want me to buy a tank? Like, do you want me to, like, what do you want me to do here? Like, it's a brick armory. Literally, it's a brick shit house. Like, it's just this old, giant brick building. And I had this huge fight with the town, and I called up the state, and I said, listen, I bought this thing from you. And they said, we don't want anything to do with it. You bought it from us. It's off the books. Don't call us. Like, forget my name. Like, your problem now. And I had this like multi-year back and forth with the town of, you know, if you change the use, if you get a non-conforming change of use, then you have to bring the building up to code. And it's like, well, this building was built in 1946. It's never going to meet the energy code. So it was this constant back and forth of what do we do with this property? And now we have 5 acres from the state of Connecticut that was property for an armory. And it's a non-conforming use, but we can't do anything else. We can't build any more buildings. So now we're at sort of a loggerhead of, we've got space, we need to build stuff, but we're not compliant with the zone. So I'm looking everywhere in a 100-mile radius for space, and it's hard to find, at least for us, it's hard to find the right space unless you have many millions of dollars to spend on something, which currently we probably don't have, you know, $10 million to spend on a brand new state-of-the-art facility. So we always look for value. You kind of have to when you're running a business as a startup. So yeah, state of Connecticut could help with that. I know there's programs and, you know, special opportunity zones and stuff, but that's sort of one of my other big struggles.
Yeah, in order to get companies to not only stay here and grow here, but maybe be attracted to come here and build here, I completely agree. Infrastructure is absolutely important.
Building on the infrastructure, so actually one thing first too, I do want to commend the state and especially the Connecticut Innovations Group. I think they're great at fostering an innovative culture in the state, identifying exciting companies and helping support them, and sometimes financially, and they've helped us in different ways at athletics, so huge thanks to them. I've got one tangible one that builds on the infrastructure and then one intangible. I think on the tangible side, natural resources, like, so I think the infrastructure for the state for manufacturing is a little limited on the energy and natural gas side. So I think like those problems, especially in fields like AI and stuff for energy, are only going to get tougher. So I think the state being more forward-looking, investing out in front of energy would probably be a great proactive step. And then one that's more intangible, but I do know has been a deterrent to businesses coming is, I'm not a political person, but the state being known for politics. I think that as much as the state can generate positive headlines for great things, great businesses, exciting things, but not politics headlines, politics can definitely be a deterrent. And sometimes like our loudest moments are politics.
Can I just add to this? So I mentioned before these innovation clusters that Connecticut is investing in. Startups as well as some companies need a lower cost compute. Compute is really expensive, and so just many large companies even can't afford it, let alone the small company startups. So one of the things that the state can do is subsidize some of these clusters. In first place, build them, but also subsidize them for academia, especially, as well as startups and smaller companies. That's going to open opportunity for innovation and more projects. Other countries have done this. They would build clusters and they would allocate certain GPU cycles to academia and other institutions that are not enterprise. We're building actually one in Southeast Europe. We found a place that has the cheapest electricity, and our commercial plan is to allocate probably 90% for commercial use, but about 10% to give to universities and other institutions as well as startups. And on top of that, we're going to build an AI incubator, which is another thing that Connecticut could actually really participate in, investing in an AI incubator. These days, you can build a company with 1, 2, or 3 people. Sam Altman said that he's expecting next year to see probably the first billion-dollar company or unicorn with 1 person or a single founder. I believe we are actually going to see this before the end of this year. This is how accelerated things are. So that means your AI incubator could be could be building startups with 1, 2 people, and these startups could be very profitable, or at least could be generating revenue, and you could do massive amount of these startups. There is a large university outside in Middle East Coast that wants to bring over 500 startups per year, and they're looking into Connecticut as one of the places where they would like to source. So we could be actually building a feeder or a platform where other countries could be buying into and contributing to our ecosystem development and supporting our ecosystem, because they also have need for talent as well. So those are some of the things we can really improve on.
These were beautiful lead-ins for me, because at Verdantis, we support these guys when they can move forward with the data centers, when they can move forward with the redevelopment of the old brick building owned by the state, right? So streamlining the permitting allows us to do more work to help folks like this get their projects done, and subsidies obviously fuel the engine and help fuel many times municipalities or data centers where we do the site planning, the energy interconnects, the site civil, the stormwater, so on and so forth. So thank you for the lead-ins. That was beautiful.
I was wondering if you're going to jump on that. You're listening, customer feedback. You're taking notes over there. All right.
I'll be very quick. I cannot really add to the list. These guys covered the wish list, but I would just tie it back to talent. And we live between Boston and New York. I'm thinking of David's comments earlier about attracting talent with the lack of affordable housing, and it's really difficult. So that would be my only tangible. I do have an intangible that I bumped into when we were really starting to lift WellSpark off the ground. And of course, I'm from Connecticut. I went to school at UConn. I've been in this business for 30 years. I'm leaning on the relationships I have in this business to try to say, hey, do me a favor, buy my stuff. And we live in the land of steady habits here in Connecticut. And I found I'm going to paint everyone with a broad brush, probably inappropriately, but they would say, Bert, come back when you have a little market share, because I'm not a risk taker. So the land of steady habits played out for me, and so I don't know how you fix that. We are who we are, but it became a factor as I was trying to lift my business off the ground.
So you want a little bit more risk-taking to support entrepreneurs. All right. So in one word, up to a full sentence, that's all you get, what is a piece of advice you want to give any of the entrepreneurs here in the audience that are either thinking about building a business or are currently building?
Always find a way to be uncomfortable.
All right, I guess I'll expand a little bit on that. So one of the things we were thinking, we were looking at data that new graduates, computer science graduates, have the highest rate of unemployment in decades. So it's very hard. On the other side, you have $300 million offers from for engineers, for AI engineers, all the way up to billion-dollar offers. Mira Murati's Thinking Machines engineer got $1 billion offer from Meta, and Meta also shelled around 300 plus $500 million offers per single person. On the other side, you have computer science graduates coming out of school without job. So we have to find creative ways to really engage young people. And because if we don't have junior engineers this year, in 3 years, we won't have senior engineers. So you're going to be in a big trouble. So one of the things that we're trying to do is creatively solve the problem. We are organizing a hackathon. So one of the fastest ways you can basically show your skill set is to compete in a hackathon. Not only that, competition is one aspect of it. The other aspect is you're going to be connected to industry experts. In our particular hackathon, we bring people from MIT, my alma mater, from Harvard, Princeton, and other schools. And we are connecting them to people all over the world. We're going to have an online plus in-person hackathons in selected cities like New York City, Boston, Berlin, Paris, London, and other cities. So this is a really good way for people, young people, across the globe to really get engaged and get noticed, because sponsors of these hackathons are some of the top AI companies. So that's one way that I think my advice would be: do these things, get yourself out there, get noticed, because there's a lot of noise around AI, and your skills today are not worth as much as they were before. So you need to show something. You need to show some tangible work.
Dad, that was a very long one sentence, but good feedback. I appreciate that.
This is one word up to a sentence of advice for budding entrepreneurs or existing entrepreneurs. Just do it. Do it yourself. Like, get it done. No one's going to do it for you.
I will say know with precision the problem you are trying to solve and who has that problem, because a lot of this comes down to segmentation, but the clients that I'm working with now think segmentation is enough. If you just, well, I want to target all mid-sized employers in the Northeast who look like this, or I'm like, you need to understand the motivation of your buyer. And again, it comes back to risk-taking, and will that buyer take a risk on something new and make that be part of your segmentation? And then don't chase. Don't chase people who don't even think they have a problem. We did a lot of that.
Mine would be persistence. Just keep showing up, make progress every single day. Most people give up. 99% of people give up. You can be in the top 1% if you just keep going.
Great advice. We're ready to open it up to the audience?
Let's, if we can, let's go into the audience. Just raise your hand if you have questions, and I can do my best, Phil Donahue, and come over and get you. That's a reference from a couple of decades ago, but some of you guys know what that is. Hey, Paul, how are you?
Good, thank you. Great to see UConn represented here. What could the academic community or the university and higher education community across the state do? Just quick math, they probably turned out 10 to 15,000 new graduates this year. How can they engage better with startups or early stage companies, make it easier for you?
As you were asking the question, I thought you were putting me on the hot seat to ask me, but no, we're opening it up to the panelists.
I think it's just any way you can stand out from just like application. So whether that's like a thoughtful cover letter or an expressed interest that you care and have gone a little bit farther and above than the field is a really good leading indicator to what you're going to be like as a full-time employee. Would probably be my thought, is like there's just so many applicants for so many jobs. Like I think it's just something to stand out.
I totally agree.
Fake. Oh, sorry. You can't fake passion for something that you want to do. And like I can read through that in a minute, and we get a lot of young people that say, oh, I'm a cyclist or I'm a triathlete and I want to come work for you. But you can't fake the passion, and you want someone that is extremely passionate. And the best candidates we've had are the people that just show up. I say, hey, if you want to work here, just show up. Start sweeping the floor, start hanging out in the warehouse, keep showing up, and if you don't quit, we'll hire you. And the ones that have passion stay because they see the bigger picture. And the ones that say, screw this, they do it for a few days and they say, this isn't for me, and they don't succeed with our organization. It's a little cutthroat, but I want the people that want to be there. So you have to show up.
Yeah, I was going to add, just to be unbelievably proactive, you know, every year we have 50 to 60 interns as part of our company. There was one intern this recent internship period that reached out to me directly on Teams. It's so easy, right? They know where I am, they can message me. No one else did except for this one intern, and said, hey, do you have time to talk? And he did several times, and I spent a lot of time with him and really appreciated how proactive he was, how passionate he was, and I hope he's somebody that stays with us into the future, right? The advice I gave him was, hey, align three things, right? What do you love? What does the company really need? And what are you good at, right? If you can align those three things, you'll probably have a fit and you'll go far in your career.
So we have the tough job of teaching students to be hungry and go after it, right? That's the advice that we're hearing. Great.
Before we go into our breakouts, any other hands? Anybody else have a question for the panel? Okay, so thank you guys. So we have, wait, did I miss one? Oh, okay, right here.
Hi. I'm kind of semi-retired. I'm a facilities manager. I've done 18 startup companies, East and West Coast. And I found Connecticut really interesting because you're into manufacturing, startups, whereas Massachusetts is all biotech, and so is New York, not to mention New Haven. But in all my work here in the Northeast, my biggest problem has always been the trades. I mean, what's Connecticut, or how can you put onto Connecticut to produce more tradespeople? Because you guys aren't going to function if the tradespeople are not there to support your buildings.
I think the question was on the trades and what is Connecticut doing to support the trades, right? Yeah. Okay.
I know Electric Boat has a pretty aggressive trade program as far as pipe fitting, welding, training, all that down in the southeast corner. I'm not sure how much support there is. Anything that we do, we teach. We provide free training for any of the skilled work within our company. I shouldn't say free training, paid. We supply paid training. So you spend about a month learning the skill of wheel building, which in and of itself is a very precise skill. So we have our own sort of micro trade program, but I do think the state is working on that pretty aggressively because they understand the implications if we do not have the right trades to build.
Well, speaking of electric boat, I found electric boat vacuums up all the tradespeople, electricians.
They take them all, yeah. Yes.
And if not, then there's a big sucking sound going to the naval bases up in New Hampshire and Maine. But again, electricians, HVAC, pipe fitters, pipers, we need this for infrastructure.
I agree completely.
And it's not happening. If I have to pull in people from Massachusetts to come to Connecticut,
I think it's a bigger problem than just Connecticut, though. I think it's a generational thing as far as like, does anyone want to go into the trades anymore? And it becomes a supply and demand issue. It's an economics thing. As the demand goes up, we're going to pay tradespeople more, and more people will go into it because no one's going to be around to fix your air conditioner, no one's going to be around to fix your plumbing. So it is supply and demand. It's simple economics, and I think the big companies like Electric Boat and some of the other big defense contractors are paying well, and they've got good benefits and good packages, and that's why there is that big vacuum going to them for all the trades.
All right, let's hear it for our panel. Really, really good. Good to have you guys. Bert and Ned and Harrison and Jesse and Bill and of course Jennifer. We really appreciate it. And we're gonna go into our breakouts now. So all of the rebellion group, the rebels as we call them, are gonna be out there. They can guide you if you have any questions. And also BJ, you wanna come up before we send them into breakouts?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so we know it's getting late, go through breakouts, we get tempted to kind of just wander out. Remember, we still have 2 additional companies as part of the pitch competition and Jeff Hoffman's keynote, so come back in, tell your friends in the other room, find a buddy, bring them. But you know, the effort here to support businesses that we're really trying to see succeed is key. And Jeff's time, he's involved in 440 plus businesses through Global Entrepreneurship Network, and active chairman of World Youth Horizons, which is in 200 countries, founding team member of Priceline and Booking. He probably forgets more than we all know about entrepreneurship collectively. So, let's rally back, support the companies, and enjoy the keynote before we kind of call it a later evening than usual for most of us, probably. Thank you.
We'll break out now.
How many times in here?
We don't hear him.
No, you just talk, I think.
All right, welcome back to our second live podcast here for Shaping CT's Future, Entrepreneurship and Innovation and Leadership. Let's go down the line, kind of, talk about who we are and our journeys and, where our perspective on entrepreneurship, and has it changed or have we kind of learned anything so far today? Justin?
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. Justin Lutz, founder at Sample and Cause Connect. I mean, from an entrepreneurship standpoint, that's my lifeblood. I enjoy, exploring trends and solving problems. I mean, as far as how it's changed, it changes all the time, and it changes more quickly now than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I think we'll probably get into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think so too.
Rachel Mealy, Met Interactive. We're a AV IT integration company, about 13 years in business, and been an entrepreneur even before that. I feel like one of the biggest things that I had reinforced today is just a sense of community, like trying to make sure you're connected with other CEOs and executives who have been through what you've been through before, so that whatever stage of the journey that you're in, you've got somebody you can chat with to try to avoid those pitfalls before you hit them, or at least make them a little less bumpy than they might be otherwise.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The feeling that someone else, you're the only one, right, that's kind of going through
Yeah,
this
you always feel alone, and
Yeah.
so if you got that community, it's a lot easier to feel okay about what's happening.
Absolutely. Paolo.
Paolo Volpati Chedra, from Milano, Italy. Lived the American entrepreneurial dream. Came here as a university student, had an idea related to food and solving what I thought was a need for clean, pure products. And was able to express myself in this beautiful environment and had a successful exit through a private equity sale. And today I'm back in the game as a fractional manager for several food companies.
Love it.
Art Linares, I'm the CEO of Rodeo Cannabis. We have the only outdoor cannabis farm, sun-grown farm in Connecticut. And we have a manufacturing lab where we process pre-rolls, vapes, gummies, flower, concentrates. We sell them across the state to all the dispensaries. And we're opening up our own stores, Rodeo stores in the future. And we also manufacture for other nationwide brands. I live in Stamford, Connecticut. I was a state senator in Connecticut for 6 years. I was an entrepreneur as well. Before that, with a different company, started Green Skies, a solar energy company here in Connecticut. And so my second Second rodeo.
But right?
Yeah.
So far, I mean, the prevalence of technology seems to be scaring many of the attendees. You know, this uncertainty around how to embrace, how to leverage, and you know what role it will play in their workforce, in their operations, from the perspective of building software solutions, understanding, you know, customer experiences on premises and in different environments. Is anything that you are thinking of or typically talking about not sort of been brought up, or have you heard any, you know, sort of misconceptions around, you know, how to really leverage and how to embrace, you know, this opportunity of AI and other technologies?
I mean, I'm happy to jump in here. So yeah, I mean, I think there's, and it's funny, I think you had brought this up the other day, but there's almost a bit of a narrative violation where everything is like AI and how do we implement and integrate and what can we do to automate and take people out of the equation. And I think the folks that are going to have staying power going forward are thinking about how they bring the human element in more than ever, right? Like how do we rehumanize, how do we personalize, how do we add that white glove touch in a world where everyone is going to ChatGPT and saying like, make me a blog post, right? Take care of my customer support. So placing an emphasis, I think, on like specifically in customer support on the front line and making sure that people have a delightful experience, more important now than ever before.
Any feelings on, you know, from your perspective of Meta Interactive, you know, the opportunities, you know, the sort of the wayfinding that you're helping clients navigate?
Well, I think I'll first just talk about the first question that you asked, you know, how people are feeling here, a little skeptical about technology, and I'm a huge fan of technology. I love it all, and I would embrace and utilize it all immediately in my business, but I think the thing that hasn't necessarily been talked about is that trepidation from the majority of people, and that includes my employees and my customers. And so while I'm ready to like go 100% or 150%, you know, I got to take baby steps, and I got to introduce my team and my clients to elements that they can understand and start to see the value that it brings them, before, you know, introducing like, you know, wayfinding to a client who, you know, they've been doing, you know, paper for their entire lives. Like that might be a step, you know, too much. Maybe I've got to like level them up to something a little bit more static first.
And I'd imagine that's something that's kind of being talked about in some of the breakouts going on as far as workforce goes, because that, as entrepreneurs, it's very much like, let's jump on these things that are going to make us more efficient and, you know, be solution first, sort of quick problem solvers. But then you have a team and a staff and folks that, you know, are saying, well, what does that do to my position, or what does that, you know, what does that do to, you know, my ability to continue to contribute? Paolo and Art, the human, whether it's cannabis or food, right, it's like people have this emotional connection to, you know, whether it was the first time, you know, that they took a drag, right? And
I don't know what you're talking about.
Earlier in life, or, you know, grandma's recipe, right? And so how are you balancing, you know, this like really maintaining some heritage and some connection to, you know, the art of you know, more organic product and something that, you know, is consumed and closer to home, you know, with this push, right? And it feels like in some instances going too far or going overboard on technology could take out some of the heart of the product.
I feel that in my industry, everything starts from the human factor. A recipe or a concept or the design of a product is still human-based. And then obviously you have access to this amazing level of technology that can take it to a different level. But in my experience, it doesn't start from there. So I would personally never use AI to come up with a formulation or a product. It starts from my heritage, my heart, my soul, then I can certainly use technology in the manufacturing process to expedite processes and create internal margins. And I can certainly use technology to then bring that product to market and propagate it in consumers' kitchens and, and dining tables. But in the food industry, in my experience, the genesis is still human.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Rodeo, we're trying to solve a fundamental human problem, which is how do we deliver a product to someone for less? And we don't want people driving out of state to buy cannabis. We want them to buy it here. And so we call it, no more trips to Massachusetts. And the way we solve that problem is by utilizing the nature's sunlight as our energy source, utilizing the well water from the ground for our water source, growing from soil, organic practices only. And we're able to provide flower and cannabis products to the market at prices that the indoor growers would just struggle to ever meet. And so we focus on that human problem, and we utilize technology to help us drive down the costs of production. So as an entrepreneur, I think what's happening in technology is phenomenal. For my team, I don't look at it like it's going to replace anyone. I actually look at it like we have so much work to do that it helps them do work faster, and they can use AI to do work faster. I also think that there's going to be things that happen in the crypto industry that specifically help cannabis with moving cash around faster without banks. We've never been able to use big banking services, so as we start to see regulation adapt with stable coins and things like that, there's going to be opportunities in cannabis that we've never had before. So I'm bullish on technology and helping us achieve our mission for people. Yeah.
So Justin, as I don't want to overstate it, but as probably the only person here who actually gets dirty in code, right? What are you seeing from the marketplace with sort of the types of technology, the types of applications, the types of use cases that business owners and teams are most looking for immediate support?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it really depends on the business, but the overarching theme is automating the logical processes, right? And not like to the point down here, the things that require more of a human touch, right? More feeling, more emotion, not so much. But when you talk about lead generation, when you talk about things like building your contact list and things like leveraging, personalizing your outreach and hyper-personalizing your digital channels, right? So where we're leveraging our understanding of the folks that we're trying to get in front of, and then internally, like helping to automate our manufacturing lines and things like that. Like, these are places where it's very tangible and it's very reliable. Where it gets a little bit more dicey, I think, is when someone's trying to replace a very good customer support person, right? Who's going to understand that there are things that need to be triaged a certain way. Mm-hmm. Those things are still hard to program like reliably,
right?
Yeah. And that'll change.
Well, I think it's like 78% of people use chatbots just as a faster way to reach a human.
Yeah.
So until they can truly think dynamically, there's still an obstacle there. Right?
Yeah. Augmentation versus replacement, unless you're talking about something very logical, very repeatable, right? That's a different story.
From a customer experience standpoint, are you changing the way you sort of model your services, your offerings, the way you engage with customers?
Yeah, I would say so. I think sustainability has been a big topic of discussion. At this conference, energy has been a big topic of discussion, obviously, because AI, consumes a lot of that. And so, if we're working in national entertainment venues, the AV systems are going to take up a lot of power.
Yep.
And a lot, like at this convention center that we're at right now, there's going to be a lot of downtime. This event's happening right now, but what's happening the rest of the day and in the morning and the evening? And so do you want all those systems to be on all the time, sucking up all of that energy? Or do we want sustainable systems that ultimately save us money and conserve at the same time? So that's been a big topic of discussion recently.
Is there a push to sort of integrate systems with sort of that like personalization or different environment augmentation for different attendees or different patrons to events or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, like, we even talk about, okay, so I'm at a Taylor Swift concert, right? And my best friend is across the arena because I couldn't get tickets. I couldn't get tickets at all, but I couldn't get tickets next to her. And so what if I had a virtual reality where I'm able to see Taylor like I'm in the front row, but I also am sitting next to my best friend who's actually physically so far away, but it's a whole new experience for the audience that is more akin to being at home, right? And some of the technology we have at home, because that's now starting to get pretty sophisticated, but with that live experience at the same time.
It brings up, in a prior event, Dennis Denninger, who was at ESPN and, was talking about the future of the Super Bowl, right? And 100 years from now or whatever, or Super Bowl, the concept of physical tickets and virtual tickets, right? And you basically, instead of just equally streaming the event, like the actual, you're buying your ticket in your virtual seat, so your view would be as if, right? And then there's different pricing models and strategies around that. So it made me think about like this completely, kind of virtual crossover.
Stuff we haven't even comprehended yet.
Yeah,
Sure.
For the use of tech day to day, if it's in operations, manufacturing, Palo, or is it something that ideally you're looking for seamlessness, right? You almost don't want to know that it's there. It's just, enabling the product, or is this something that, there's value in, kind of feeling that, oh, this company is organic and still, has a heritage and a human element, but is also progressive and innovative. How do you balance that, from a market standpoint?
Going back to what you were saying, so we're working on a presentation format that will actually allow the American supermarket buyer, not the consumer, the buyer chain level, through virtual reality, to experience where the product comes from, what it stands for, and how it's made. So I'll make an example. I represent a truffle company here in the United States, and not fresh truffles, but packaged goods.
So you didn't put a GoPro on a pig and...
Actually, dogs.
Oh, okay.
No, but our thing is the buyer will never. So we're selling 120 years old history, family history, in the woods of Tuscany, with a particular light, a particular scent, a particular noise when you step on the leaves, the barking of the dog, and that is incomprehensible unless you put up a set of goggles, and suddenly, as a buyer, you're seeing from a bird's eye view where this is. You're going into the woods, and there I am in front of you as you're experiencing this, making you smell the truffle as the dog is digging and finding the truffle. So for us, it's a step forward in our presentation style rather than opening a jar and here you go, try it. It's because, again, our industry is very emotional and very visceral, and the more you can spike those things, through technology, short of taking a trip, a flight, and going into the woods, then we just found our competitive advantage.
Yeah,
It's not in the budget to fly everyone out over to Tuscany.
It's amazing. Yeah, I think we look at technology and ask ourselves, how do we make our product better? How do we make it more affordable for people, for the customer? And we have 7 acres of outdoor cannabis. It's pretty cool to see. It's like kind of surreal, right? And we have at certain points throughout the year, we'll have 65 people walking around the farm, trimming leaves, looking at the plants, kind of taking care of these plants. And we're looking at ways that maybe we can use drones to help help aid in monitoring the plants. So rather than someone spending all their time looking for the problem,
love that.
They spend more of their time addressing the problem and using the technology to make the product better. At the manufacturing lab, we manufacture tens of thousands of packages a month, and we're looking for ways, because cannabis packaging it's sort of a newer industry. There are automated ways, but we're looking for ways to utilize AI and automation to handle the very kind of custom manufacturing process, so that there's more focus on producing a higher quality product instead of these kind of very mundane tasks of that. I think ultimately humans would rather be spending their time trying to focus on the quality of the product than doing things that are repetitive, and we should have technology do that. So that's the way we look at it.
Are there opportunities for, in a highly regulated industry, are there emerging players that are aiding, sort of tracking from, production to sale, or even, in just preservation, right, and shelf life, and, that holy grail of understanding supply chain and shelf dwell time and everything else, are those areas that you guys are leveraging?
Yeah, we've spoken to one drone operator that is actually doing this with potato farmers across the world, and he's working with a big British tobacco in Brazil, flying drones around their massive tobacco fields, trying to identify problems. So we're trying to implement a solution like that in Connecticut. It's a much smaller scale, but so there are things that are kind of in the works. I think it's just all very new, and it's moving quick, and eventually it will be a good opportunity, I think, for all businesses. So we are looking at it, but there's no one that has really provided a out-of-the-box solution for my sector yet.
I'll just add to that in construction. As you can imagine, you can send somebody to site, you can say, hey, go look at this entire building, all floors that have been completed so far, and tell me where we stand. Or, now the new technology is you just use a robot, that not only is that robot walking the entire construction site, but it can do measurements and it can take pictures and, in some ways better than a human would be able to spot, which is not to say that the human element is not important, but it allows the human to focus on the things that really matter, the conversations with the construction manager, and the client that, lead to a better overall job.
Just force multiplier.
Spot issues
Yeah,
that, are going to come up with an inspection or something ahead of time. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea of, tech on the ground, or, in the practical application, right? My mind always goes to that bridge between consumer and business, right? Kind of collecting the lead, nurturing, sending out, the workflows, and getting to know a bit more data about a potential customer, whether that's through a reseller, distributor, or direct. What other types of ways are, kind of the most practical opportunities for businesses to leverage tech?
Man, I mean, are we talking about AI specifically, or anything?
I think just technology. I'm trying to go back to I think it was tech on the ground, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, I think, so the progression from what used to be basically RPA, like robotic process automation, right? That can be applied anywhere, right? Even what you're talking about with the drones, right? Basically what we're doing there is just ingesting a ton of data with the cameras, right? And helping the human be more efficient in analyzing all of that. How many use cases can you think of where that same kind of thing applies and you have someone that can be accelerated and can look at a lot more quickly and make better decisions because of that? I mean, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, yeah. And for coming up with new, solutions for different types of venues, or kind of planning for solutions for these new innovative, venues that are in concept. Are you leveraging anything to kind of try and stay ahead of the curve there?
What's interesting for us is we often try to have we'll have clients come to us and they have these big grand ideas of we want the next Superdome or something like that. And in actuality, we often have to have a conversation with them about sustainability and about, do you have the budget to be able to care for a system like that, and how long do you want it to last? And if we don't have all of those conversations up front, they'll end up with technology that they ultimately can't use. And that can be, that's devastating for the amount of money that people spend on some of this technology.
Yeah.
So that's, sort of back to my first point of sometimes we got to take baby steps before we jump right to a Superdome.
Yeah, yeah.
What can we
you
actually
flip
wrap
the
our
bill
head
on
around?
the Vegas sphere?
Yeah.
Well, I think we're at break here, and thank you for kind of joining and going with the flow in this very structured conversation. But appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.